Take your meds.
That sounds like an audio clip that would play at the beginning of a JPEG Mafia song. Take your meds. Car
Don't say
crash sound
that.
effect, glass break sound effect. You think you know me.
You think you know me?
Jen, I have a question for you. You looked at me
What
so
is it?
you looked at
You're
me so
already
expectantly.
you've already got me on edge.
Are you the type of number brain rot person who's incredibly bothered by people's rating scales on platforms like Letterboxd or Rate Your Music?
Not anymore, thank God. Thank God I stopped caring about that.
Well, some of us aren't lucky enough to be quelled of that particular I was watching some sort of like tier list or something in the past week or so, and whoever was making it was talking about like, you know, such and such was okay. I thought it was pretty decent, but kind of unremarkable. And they're like, yeah, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. And I was just like, I was sitting here and I was just like, the American education system has completely destroyed our ability to recognize what numbers mean. Because if you're telling me you think something's I and you give it a set, I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense to me. This, like, I feel like I need to establish this because people might mistake our rating scales, which I would broadly consider to be somewhat similar. Like people might be like if Jen or I give something a 7, that means we think it's great.
We think it
Like,
fucks.
it fucks. Like, hell, I will go to bat. Like, there are 6 out of 10 albums and movies that I will die for, some of which we might be talking about today.
Shout out to Corey
But
Tad who came up with the great column idea, the 5-star, 3-star movie.
I love that idea. I love that idea because we so often overlook the tenets and virtues of things that are merely just good. Like there is an art to making something that is just kind of fine, but it can have great things. Good criticism acknowledges that great things can be within mediocre things. And look, that's all I wanted to say. And as a matter of fact, I think that that tenet might apply a little bit to segue. I saw two 2025 movies in the past week, and both of them surprised me, honestly. The first one I saw was the latest Stephen King adaptation that has hit theaters, directed by one Mr. Norman Bates Jr., Oz Perkins. I saw The Monkey.
Oh, I thought you were
Um,
gonna say The Life of Chuck, the actual latest Stephen King
That's right.
adaptation to
That's
leave
that
theaters.
did come sooner. Look, we will talk about that movie on this show eventually, just because how could we fucking not? And also, I just found out that Mike Flanagan's in Death Stranding too. So look, all the
I didn't
worlds
even know that, and I'm playing the game right now.
I've had like he just shows up in a hologram and I'm like, "Oh fucking all right. All right. I'll get on it, okay? Fucking Jesus, Hideo, give me some time." But I did see The Monkey, which I was originally going to go see in theaters, but it just like didn't work out schedule wise, because I'm actually, even though his filmography is a little rocky to me, I really fuck with Oz Perkins. Like I'm like I he kind of came onto my radar when because I watched Red Letter Media a lot, and Jay Bauman, big advocate of his debut feature, The Black Coat's Daughter, which I've seen a couple of times now, and every time I rewatch that movie, I like it even more. It's such an odd, esoteric piece of horror that I think is just a really well-oiled machine of an indie horror film. And I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House was kind of boring. Hansel and
It's
Gretel was very
okay.
was very pretty. I like the set design a lot. But I actually really liked Long Legs, even though there's some parts of the screenplay of that I don't love, but like the horror of something like that and just that movie's gonzo energy, I'm like, this is what I look for, okay? Like this weird premise, this weird tone, this fucking incredibly interesting eye for composition and a lot of T-Rex needle drops for some reason. I mean, like, hey man, I also love
But did you
90s noise
see
rock.
all the hidden Satans in the background?
I, I don't.
Fucking annoying. Fucking annoying.
Fucking
Stop doing
red
this.
circle YouTube thumbnail ass culture. Like, whatever, bro. Give me Nicolas Cage mashing his face into the table over that bullshit any day of the week. I was interested because Perkins attaching himself to what is frankly an incredibly unserious King story. Just, I was kind of like, okay, I mean, dude's got a weird sense of humor, so I guess that works. And, I haven't seen the new Final Destination movie. I've been assured that it's actually kind of all right, but there's no fucking way it's better than this. I I know that this movie had some mixed reactions, and to that, my response is learn how to have fun better. This movie is so stupid. Like, gleefully, macabrely stupid. And I have an infinite respect for its stupidity. It is an insanely well filmed Rube Goldberg machine of ridiculous death sequences that just do not stop. If anything short of that sounds not appealing to you, this probably won't give you what you're looking for. But if you're just like, yeah, that sounds fucking entertaining, like this plays like a parody of Stephen King. And I kind of love that about it. Like it is knowingly kind of indulging in these tropes and just making fun of them. And like we're long overdue for that. Like I again, big Stephen King fan,
Because
not a
people
big
don't
fan.
know how to make fun of Stephen King. They
They don't know
don't
how
know how to do it. Because
you
you
have to.
can. You very
Yeah,
much can.
and Oz Perkins proves that not only is this a good idea, is that it is rich to mine. Like we are getting an inordinate amount of King shit this year. Like we were getting The Long Walk we're getting here soon. The new Edgar Wright movie is The fucking Running Man, which fucking like, oh man, I'm excited for that shit. And again, we got The Life of Chuck, we've got this. And to me, it's like this is kind of proving how versatile of a writer he is, that he's not just, the horror guy and the only horror movie to come out is a movie where it's just like, yeah, it's kind of obvious that everybody involved in the making of this is like, this is silly. Let's have some fun with it, all right? So if you need like a good little movie to watch on like a date night or something and you like horror movies, go check that out. But the movie that I think surprised me in the best of ways is, and I will keep on the spoiler free side here just because this is new and it is probably the biggest movie of the year so far, is that I saw Superman, James
Yeah.
Gunn's latest fucking comic book picture. Uh to say I was apprehensive about this movie is an understatement, considering I don't really like any live action Superman that isn't Smallville, which Jen and I have a really shared affinity for. Like you've been did you finish Smallville?
Yeah, I was this is my second time watching it. The time that I was kind of talking through it with you was I had seen it
Mhm.
before already.
Smallville was one of those shows that like I owned the first 5 seasons of that on DVD in those big fucking box sets that you used to find at Walmart.
Yeah.
That was my shit, man. I remember like I would always like I'd watch season 1 and 2 so much that eventually I just started watching it from season 3 onward because I had a less recollected memory of that. And I was like, that was the version of Superman I grew up with. And I kind of grew up as a closet Superman fan because everybody thought Superman was fucking lame. And like, yes, but comma, uh there is a good way to do Superman. I feel like if you try hard enough, you can. And none of the live action movies ever really did it for me. Like, I mean, the Donner ones I think are fine. I think Superman Returns is okay. Like, I don't hate that movie like some
It's
people
fine.
do. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. And I just, frankly, I don't even want to talk about Snyder. Like, it's not even because I dislike like that. Just like I'm tired. Like, I grew up in the like, if you grew up in the 2010s and you were on the internet, I don't know how you don't feel the desire to never talk about the films of Zack Snyder again, regardless of whether or not you like them. I was just like, we can put this to rest. Everything that has been said about them, it's gone. So I'm like, okay, I would like a new Superman, and James Gunn making it is like that could be a match made in heaven. And then you see the trailer, and I was just like, there seems to be like there's a lot going on in this movie, and like it's supposed to soft launch the new DCU, and it's like there's like looks like there's like 4 or 5 villains in this, and it's just like, have we not learned from Spider-Man 3? And I was just like, look, I'm just gonna wait, see if I can get the okay from some people, then I might get excited. And then some of my friends went and saw it, and they were just like, this is this is ace. And
Good.
I'm like,
I haven't
fine.
seen it yet, so I'm excited, but I can't comment.
I I will say Superman gets a hearty thumbs up from me. In terms of the canon of James Gunn's filmography, uh I would say I put this slightly above the first Guardians movie, which is a movie I love. I will talk endless shit about the MCU, and I'm sure one day that'll happen in some form or another on this show, just because of, I don't know, the cultural bubble that has yet to burst, I suppose. But I would say that it is a little bit better than that, just because this feels like somebody who got to take the gloves off and do whatever the fuck they wanted and basically make a 2 hour long episode of Superman the Animated Series. And kind of Smallville. Like, I got really excited when Corn Sweat and Nicholas Holt were both like, Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling, respectively, were our main inspirations for our performances. And you feel that. You really do feel that in the fucking, like, Cord Sweat is a pitch perfect Superman. Like, he brings the golly aw shucks kind of, I'm just a good Kansas farm boy. But also, like, he's gonna put his foot down when he sees some bad shit happening. It's just like, this is the Superman that I grew up with and that I understand and that I love. I'm with that. And it wasn't until I read our friend and guest on the channel, Zach's write-up of Superman last night, which is phenomenal. In fact, I might even link that letterboxd review in this description of this video because it's so good, is that Nicholas fucking Holt as Lex Luthor, round of a fucking applause. Like, this dude, every second he's on screen, you can just tell there is hatred behind this man's eyes. Every movement he makes feels like it is motivated with pure fucking evil. This guy, like, there are moments in this movie where I have never felt an audience in a theater just go like, oh man, fuck this guy. We have sorely missed that in the realm of, like, ever since we had kind of the double-decker Killmonger Thanos kind of bad guy with a point villain, and everybody's kind of trying to do that perpetually. And I'm like, if you don't do that shit perfectly, please don't do it at all, because if you don't do it perfectly, you fail. You fail. And in fact, some of those examples, like Thanos, I do kind of think fail. But point being, Superman fucks. It has way too much going on. I would have really loved for the movie to be maybe a half an hour longer, give it a little bit of breathing room, because frankly, my favorite moments are when it slows down and just kind of lets its characters do its thing. But I'll say what I said in my review of it, in that I love every single decision this movie makes so much. I just wish it made those decisions slower. And still, it's a completely understandable problem for a movie like this to have. So I've had a lovely week consuming new things in the realm of cinema. Those are nice. I would go and watch those if I were you. Recommended. Thumbs up.
So speaking of people taking off the creative gloves and giving us a bit of a uncompromising vision, let's kick
Hmm.
off our first proper segment by talking about Ghais Guevara. Again,
Yeah.
we touched about
Yeah.
Ghais Guevara on like the second episode because I wanted Jake so badly to listen to his last record, Goyard Ibn Said. And we did. We talked about that. We like it a lot. But there's a new Ghais Guevara mixtape out. The other two fifths, or the absolutely true diary of a part-time trench baby, named in lieu of the Sherman Alexie novella, Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. This is basically Ghais taking the gloves off, going back to the mixtape realm, making a hard knock trap album that is very much a departure from the very structured, the very disciplined, the very narrativized Goyard Ibn Said. And this is where he, to use his words, goes full Goyard and delivers us an album with a lot of brazen trap bangers. I want to go ahead and skip ahead to the song that I think really sets the stage for what this album is going to be, and that's FOMO, the third track.
FOMO.
I've thought about the lyric, I want to be a star because I've always been a target every
Mm.
single day since I've
Mm.
listened to it. Like that's just such a great summary of Gais's motivation to pursue greatness in the world of hip hop. Is like, yeah, if everybody is going to be watching what I do, I might as well embrace it and try to make something good out of it and get some fucking benefit out of it if the whole world is going to put a target in my back. And that's kind of what this whole album is about. It's about bringing everybody to the party and making every tour date the Gatsby party. So Jake, what did you think of this new mixtape from Ghais Guevara?
I was a little worried when you said we wanted to cover this because I was just like, there's a chance that like this might just be like regardless of quality, it might just be a little bit more of what we got before just because the releases are so close in proximity. And then I saw the cover of this project and I was like, ah, it's a mixtape. Like I didn't even need to look that part up. I was just like that. If you have ever been like, if you downloaded shit off of Dat Pith, if you've ever like, if you are in it with the mixtape hip hop world, which I really have tried to like go and seek those out over the last 2 years, just because I found that that's a world that I find really fascinating and love a lot of the music from, and find like a lot of legitimately boundary pushing shit is within this realm of music. And I was like, I'm very interested to see what somebody like Gais would do with something like this. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I really fucked with that last album he made. I kind of fuck with this a little bit more. The production on this album is fucking stellar. The kind of There was a sort of full, almost like dancey experimental vibe that was on kind of the second half of that first Gais project. And I was like, that was a cool way to shift modes in that album. And that's just kind of the entire bit here with this record. And I think that works exceptionally well. The very full sounding, cloudy mixtape production is just, oh, I mean, music to my fucking ears. I love this kind of hip hop project where it's just kind of no frills. Everything is constant. Like it does remind me a lot of, this is the closest I think that Gais has actually come to sounding like the often compared to JPEG Mafia. But here it feels like there's a little bit more concision. It feels like there's way, way more attention to Gais's pen than you would probably expect from a project like this. Like, he is not using the mixtape aesthetic as a way to depart from his very lyrical, very funny kind of style. And he's very like he does very much indulge in kind of hip hop staples in here. There's so many moments on here of braggadocio and moments where he's basically warning people not to fuck with him and then kind of being like, if you do, here's what happens. And like there's, moments where he talks about just sort of like growing up in the environment that he did. And like there is, references to theory on here. And like it's a bit more of a, if I can be a little snooty, it's a thinking man's mixtape. But like the reason you listen to this is because it's hard as fuck. Point blank, period.
Yeah, this album goes. We saw Ghais get finally a bit rewarded for some of the work that he's done when they played his fucking song before Kendrick Lamar came out at the Super Bowl on television. They used it for the stinger to introduce him. And I was just like, holy,
That's
that was a
insane.
moment. Seeing that live, I freaked out. I like opened Twitter. I saw he posted. He was like, "Yeah, I guess I couldn't tell you guys about that, but yeah."
Hey man, good for Kendrick putting people on to smaller artists like that, you know?
Absolutely. But no, one of my favorite songs of the year, and one of my favorite song titles of the year is Easy E2 Mama's
I was
Colombian.
just gonna fucking say that is the best song title of the year by a distance. That's so good.
And th this one and so many of these songs are just about, yeah, don't make me get hostile. Let me have my good time. Let me give the people what they want. Don't cross me because, like he says a lot on CIA PsyOp, right? He's already been through the hardest part of his life. It's kind of only gone up for him since he started this whole music thing, even though he's talked about a lot of his struggles with this whole music thing. But he has bounced back from a lot, and I just admire a guy who shows that like continued determination and persistence and just effortless charm and fun in everything that he does. Like I love this dude's energy. I love what he brings to the table. I love what he's bringing to the game. I love his collaborators. Like I love that Taylor Banks is on this. I love Yoko McThuggin. Shout out Yoko McThuggin, making another great guest verse on here, which we gave her
Absolutely.
similar compliments for on Go Yard Ibn Saeed. But I mean, yeah, you're right. We listen to the other two fifths because it goes. It's
Hmm.
such a fun album. It's a fun like end of summer sound, and that's something I've been really looking forward to getting from a guy like Ghais. Because yeah, you're right. He's been dodging that JPEG comparison for a while, but he has admitted that he sees himself as kind of in the lineage as far as his some of his sampling and production practices go. Like there's a fucking Beth Gibbon sample on this
Some of the
from her
samples
last
on this
solo
are
album.
wild. Wild.
He has a lot of great choices on this, but yeah, at the end of the day, we're here for the vocals because I love this dude's voice. I cannot get enough
Hmm.
of, and I love how on and everything in it he's leaning into his most trap influenced delivery while also making it kind of a rage track of like, yeah, cracker ain't gonna put no chain on chain on chain. I'm just like, oh shit, like this is how it starts. This is how it starts. Like we're on a whole other level of energy than we ever got on anything on Guardian and Saeed. And so that just sets you up that you're gonna get a lot more high octane, fast flows on this. But it's not loose, right? The pen game
No.
is absolutely there. He's very pronounced, he's very clever, he's very stylish. Um, I just love seeing it. I love hearing it. I've been rooting for Gais for years on this podcast, and so I wanted to come back and just be like, yeah, this is another one for the boy.
I I'm so impressed with how this dude is like a smaller artist comparatively speaking, but also just like he just knows how to put together a project. And this really showcases his versatility of just somebody who's like, I can be a no frills, just like just because I'm abandoning a more like conceptual angle doesn't mean I'm gonna put any less thought into it. And that's just like hip hop needs more versatile voices like Gais's like putting forward on here. Like somebody who's willing to get weird with it, somebody who's willing to pull from people like JPEG Mafia just because like the best thing Peggy's presence in music could do is inspire other people to produce more songs like him. Because frankly, he is like still the most exciting voice in hip hop production. I feel like the sort of lasting, sort of continued success of not only his solo stuff, but his work with Danny Brown and, Scaring the Hose and all that is just like, it's creative and it's very forwardly, just, it's so colorful and expressionistic and like odd. And the fact that so many people fuck with it kind of means that the environment of hip hop is healthier, if you know what I mean. And so
Yeah.
if we've got somebody like him pulling from that, but also doing something distinctly different, like again, when we make a JPEG comparison to Ghais, it is not to pigeonhole him. It is merely to say that if you fuck with that, you will fuck with this. He has a completely different edge to him. I was like, I think this is the album I maybe listened to the most, like that we've talked about on this show, just because it was the easiest to listen to. It is like, I mean, it actually has the exact same appeal as the Jane Remover album from earlier this year, where you just put it on and you just instantly start having a good time. Just pure burst of serotonin kind of shit.
Yes, and very, very happy to see that come from a guy like Gais. Another great addition to what's becoming one of my favorite like rap catalogs of the 2020s is between, There'll Be No Super Slave, the Goyard mixtapes, the Goyard Ibn Said album, right? I revisit Gais's music a hell of a lot. And
Look, it happened to McKinley, so it could happen to him.
I'm ready for it. I need it to happen. He was on the McKinley Dixon album. He had
Yes,
a little snippet of a feature on the last McKinley Dixon album, which is very promising. I
maybe
love
we
that they've
can
got a good
collab
working
more.
relationship. And I really do wonder how compatible they would actually be on an album length project. Uh,
Bro, can we get their scare in the hose? I want to know what that sounds like. McKinley Dixon over a cloud rap beat? Gimme. Gimme, 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 gimme. I want
Well, and
that.
also just him, Gais on jazz rap is just as appealing. One of my favorite songs of his, I mentioned it before. Patrice Cullors Stole My Lunch Money. It has a beat switch in the second half to a fucking Silk Sonic sample, and he
Mm.
rides it effortlessly. Like this dude can make great jazz rap if he wanted to. There's a lot of songs on Ghais Ibn Said that do that, and so it would be interesting to see what they would do. But as far as our putting a cap on our review of the other two fifths, I'm big thumbs up on this. This is high on my list for albums this year.
Huge,
I'm
huge thumbs up.
hugely fucking with this. Jake, stop making me listen to genres I never listened to that I end up liking a little too much and I feel bad about.
This
We need to
this
talk
is what the
about
show's for,
we need to
motherfucker.
talk about Tropical Fuck Storm, their new album Fairyland
And
Codex.
Codex. Uh, Tropical
What the hell
Fuckstorm
is this?
Tropical Fuckstorm, I mean, like from the name alone, if that doesn't get your attention, I don't know what will. But I'm really, really shocked that throughout the entire, 4 year long Jams and T tenure, we managed to go without talking about Gareth Lydiard in any like official capacity. I think that Riley maybe mentioned the drones in a what we've been listening to segment a while ago, but basically I got put onto Gareth Lydiard, who is the frontman of Tropical Fuckstorm, his kind of first project, the Drones, because our friend Zach and Riley were so into the Drones. And the Drones are an Australian post-punk outfit that very Nick Cave adjacent, really political band that specialize in a kind of like post-punk that is just so it's so all encompassing. It's even kind of difficult to label it as just being post punk. There's a little bit of noise rock in there too, and like some cases, like spoken word stuff. It's kind of like I would describe a lot of Drones albums, particularly I See Seaweed, which I think is like a masterful, masterful record. I would describe it as being kind of like an Australian, more political Tom Waits, which again, I like that. That's me. I like that. that. I like Tom Waits. And Tropical Fuckstorm is kind of the project that it feels like Gareth Lydiard sort of moved away from the drones a little bit and embraced a more full band kind of thing going on, where he's got sort of a noise rock bent to this coming on, like a garagey, acidy kind of thing. And Tropical Fuckstorm has been dropping a couple of albums that have all done really well critically, and I've always meant to check them out. I listened to like Braindrops, I think, when that came out, and I never knew what to make of that album before I had the context of who Lydiard was. So I was like, I don't even fucking like what the fuck is this? I mean, it's kind of cool, but like what? And it has a very kind of psych rock bent to it as well. And so I was like, okay, I need to give them a way more proper shot. They've got a new album. People are saying it's really good. Let's give this a shot. And this is not gonna be an album for everyone, but boy, howdy, was it an album for me.
It's an
Uh,
album for me. I'm really fucking with this. It's the best way I would describe it without like looking at any of the genre tags for Tropical Fuckstorm in advance of this. The closest that I got is that it's very like sludgy kind of blues rock, which was a
yes.
really interesting aesthetic to kind of get mired around it. This is going to sound weird. It reminds me of like, did you listen to the last Idols album, Tank?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I did
I
actually.
actually really liked the first single from that album. I still kind of do. And
I think I do
this
too.
album is a little bit dirtier, a little bit grimier, but it's that song that I like off the Idols album that I don't like. But
Yeah.
it's a whole album with a lot more abstract writing, a lot more like fun political speech, a lot more fun vocals. Because holy shit, I didn't know this was a group. And so when
Oh yeah.
the other vocalist comes in, it's like the first time you listen to Jefferson Airplane. It's because their voices, they have a similar dynamic, right? Where he's a bit more
hmm
gravelly, he's a bit more brash, but she's just got this pristine voice that I love hearing. Like Bloodsport is my favorite song on this album just because I love listening to this woman work the mic, and she is amazing. Fiona Kitchen is her name. What else has she done? She's also a member of the Drones, so they've
hmm
been working together for a really long time. And hearing the two of them go back and forth on songs like Bloodsport, on songs like Teeth Marks, is just so much fun. I really dig this.
I think what I loved about this so much is like it's a very broad kind of quality, but like this is such a phenomenal guitar album. If you
Yes.
love weird, kind of wonky guitar tones, if you like shit like Modest Mouse or Primus, like this is right up your fucking alley. And that kind of vocal dynamism that they have with, the male and female vocalists in the band, it really adds a certain something, I guess, to the deliveries here are often very like they will be stilted and then contrasted by the opposite presence that will be a little bit more colorful. And I always appreciate when, vocals are willing to be toyed with in the same way that instrumentals are. It's an album that feels really hypnotic in the same way the best drones songs do, is that they utilize a lot of repetition in some of their songs. Like I've had the refrain of Village in Hell stuck in my head like all fucking week. And the way it kind of just hammers home some of these repetitions and still does build a lot of the instrumental ideas. It's really, really compelling. And it's also just a very, very topical record. Very like it's an album that I really love and I think is excellent, but I actually do have a hard time listening to like some of the stuff in the second half just because it's like we do, in fact, live in hell. Good, awesome, love being reminded. But I don't want to say that like it's a bad thing. Just that it hits some particularly poignant notes. Notes about like immigration, notes about like crime, stuff like that. That's very much always been within his interest, and it's always very smartly integrated. But you are here for the aesthetic. You are here for the palette. If you want a good guitar album, look no further than this. And it's also like, it's just a record that has all of its ducks in a row. I don't really have many overriding complaints with it just because It's clearly the product of a bunch of musicians who have been working together for a long time and know exactly what they want to do. Like, I just love this kind of really confident, really self-assured record that is not afraid to be weird and strange. Like, just take a look at this fucking nightmare Muppet ass album cover and
It looks
tell
like
me
if
that
the it looks like if the Where the Wild Things Are movie got like a weird parody by
yeah.
the Smiling Friends guys or some
Yeah.
shit.
If the fucking Oni drew the Where the Wild Things Are characters, yeah, exactly. There's there and that kind of loose formlessness of the album art is kind of within these songs is that they are structured very tightly, but there is still a almost improvisational quality to some of like the longer songs on here that I also just really appreciate just because the older I get, the more I really fuck with improvisational kind of shit just because I like the spur of the moment following your instincts kind of shit, but it never really gets away from them. Like this is still an album that it's a really solid 50 minutes and I just appreciate the construction of it. It's really solid, it's really great. I would highly recommend like if you even kind of slightly enjoy this, even if you're a little bit more tepid on it, go check out the drones because they are I guess just a bit of an easier pill to swallow. Like this band is clearly more preoccupied with their weirdo shit, which I mean, I'm yes, please, thank you. I love that. But if you need something that's a bit more straight-laced and kind of easier to understand, go listen to like ICC Weed. In fact, I don't even need to single out a Drones album. Every Drones album is fucking amazing. Like one of the best rock discographies of the century. Full stop.
And we talk about how unkempt this album can be, but it's never a harsh listen. There's not going to be anything
Mm-mm.
here that's going to really like hurt your ears in the way that we talk about music sometimes that we like. It's very smooth, it's very clean. It goes down. If you can get on their flow, their very strange flow, you're gonna have an enjoyable time listening to it because there's a lot of great pristine production here of these vocals and these unkempt guitar tones. And like I said, it's just very like I love this the fuzzy texture that this album has. It feels like
Fuzzy. Good word.
what if my favorite like Black Keys guitar tones were on good songs.
Yes! And I will say, Ghais still claims best song title of the year. Second place has to go to Dunning-Kruger's Loser Cruiser, which
I was
incredible.
thinking the same thing. All right, I'm putting a big thumbs up on Fairyland Codex.
And like it's like you said, I also give this a big thumbs up. But it's not like this is gonna hurt your ears. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with music that hurts your ears a little bit.
Where are you going with this? Do you even know what we're talking about this episode? We're done
Oh,
talking about
I know what
music.
we're talking about. Do you not appreciate the art of foreshadowing?
Let's take a small drink, get over
Ah.
yourself beat before we go into talking about fucking Dario Argento. All right. Jake, what the fuck did you just put me through?
Okay. So I recommended you Dario Argento's Mother of Tears, which I cited as being like if I had to put a stamp on what my favorite bad movie is, this is a front runner for number one. For those of you who don't know, Dario Argento, Italian filmmaker who really made waves in that kind of Italian horror scene in the burgeoning kind of Giallo movement that is really kind of like exists a little bit away from him before Suspiria, and Suspiria even then is takes a lot from Giallo, but it's a very complex movie when it comes to its inspiration, but he is kind of lumped into that category and justifiably so. But movies like Deep Red, movies like Tenebrae are, well held up today as classics of this particular movement, but Suspiria is kind of the crown jewel on this whole movement of being this crazy neon psychosexual bonanza of dream logic and crazy violence and just insane cool shit. And if you've ever heard me talk about horror in any capacity, I have no doubt at least mentioned both Suspiria's, the original, and the remake. The original, one of my favorite horror movies ever. The remake is my favorite horror movie ever. And I just love Giallo in general because it is a genre that is very preoccupied with just the sensory experience of cinema. It's Eisensteinian. It's just what do the images you're being shown make you feel? Nothing more, nothing less. It's kind of a form of maximalist minimalism that I really fucking love. And I'll admit, some of these movies can be a bit hit and miss. I love the original Suspiria, but it isn't a trilogy of films. The second film in this trilogy, Inferno, is a pretty well-liked movie that I do not like at all. To me, it is a film that abandons a lot of the musicality and spontaneity of the original Suspiria and just kind of creates a more drab, less interesting version of something that already exists. And I was always really disappointed by that. And I never checked out the third movie in this because, well, Dario Argento's more recent, kind of the last 20 years of his career, with the exception of his most recent film, which I have been reliably told is actually okay, it doesn't have exactly a really great reputation. Movies that like the not Opera, which is a different movie, but his Phantom of the Opera, for instance, is I haven't seen that movie, but I've seen scenes, and that is all I need to see because nope.
Have you
Uh,
seen any bits of his Dracula 3D?
yeah,
One of the
I
ugliest
have.
things I think I've ever laid eyes on.
I have one of my friends from high school, a buddy of Morgan and I, who's like just super into like retro media and Dario Argento and old horror and stuff, and like will eat up anything as long as it just fucking like looks awesome and shit. And like, understandably, but even he was just like, nah, man, this ain't it. I was like, all right,
Oof.
that's all I need to know. And I mean, it's kind of understandable just because when you have somebody like him, he's kind of made the switch over to digital, and I feel like that was with
Ooh,
Argento.
I have some things to say
Oh
about that.
yeah. The shot on film quality of Suspiria is just it's such a necessary part of that movie's texture and his other films as well. It's like you need that to enjoy everything fully. So again, his late career stuff not super great. So I avoided Mother of Tears just because. And one day when, the pandemic first began and I got off of work and everybody I knew was off of work and we just basically did nothing but watch movies together, we were like, hey, we should watch like a bad Dario Argento movie after we watch fucking Spy Kids 1 and 2. And we were like, yeah, let's find one. And then we were just like, hey, let's watch Mother of Tears because, we all like Suspiria and we may as well see what's going on here. And it's like, yeah, this is like the cast of this is kind of a murderer's row of like all-star Giallo actors and actresses and like Hammer horror actors and actresses. So we're like, this could be something. And what followed is maybe one of the most ruthlessly entertaining viewing experiences of a film I've ever had in my life. I don't think like, once we started laughing, which begins very early on in this movie's runtime because of a jump scare, we didn't stop until it was over. Like, it was riotously fun. And then I watched it again with a friend afterwards, just be like, does this hold up? Or is this just kind of like, it's crazy and funny, but like only good for viewing? And we watched it again, and I was just like, this is fucking ridiculous. And so I figured, while I am handing you the recommendation of here's my favorite thing in the world and it's 64 episodes, I'll give you something a bit slighter, a little bit more fun, alleviate the tone a little bit. So, Jen, pray tell, what is Mother of Tears? And how'd you feel about good old the Mother of Darkness?
Um, the Mother of Darkness. So the thing about Mother of Tears is that it doesn't sneak up on you at all. There's if you know a lot about editing, if you watch a lot of movies, and especially if you watch like bad digital era movies. There are just certain things about the way that movies can be edited that let you know you're gonna be kind of in for a piece of trash. And the first time that I noticed it was right in the beginning when the backhoe falls into the hole and the
And
guy,
then
you just
you get
hear
a
him,
YouTube scary face.
well, you just hear him say, "Hey, there's something down here." And then they cut to an extreme close-up of the sarcophagus already on the ground. And I just thought, oh, this is gonna be one of those. This movie's gonna look like this the whole time.
Hmm.
And then yeah, you get a YouTube poop scary face. It's like what's the name of the video where it's like an empty room with like the rocking chair and then it goes blah. I can't
God,
remember what it's
yeah,
called, but I
fucking.
watched that. I showed that to so many of my friends in elementary
And
school.
I was
Oh
one
my
of those
God.
friends who got pranked. Is that my gullible ass? I was just like, "Why are you showing me a video of a rocking chair?" I'm easily startled. What can
I'm
I
also
say?
easily startled.
I
And
have
so like
anxiety. I'm always on edge.
that one did get me at first. I was like, oh, that's actually pretty well timed, even though I think it kind of looks funny because we associate it with a certain kind of thing. And so I was like, okay, maybe. Maybe there's something to this. Maybe it's just made a little bit on the cheap. Maybe it's just, Argento's early experimenting with digital. But then the first big murder scene happens, and I
Oh
just
my
started
God.
laughing. Oh my God, there's a
Oh my
part
God.
where so two times the main character of this movie, Sarah, is in another room while someone is being murdered, and they keep cutting back to her waiting to figure out what's going on.
And
And
she's
the
always just
first
like,
time,
just
yeah,
oblivious, just kind of walking around. And then it will cut back to some of the most outlandishly violent, silly shit you've ever seen.
they these little like dwarf witches
Dwarves, yeah, like
disembowel this woman and then start strangling her with her own entrails. And I saw the vision. Then I was able to really adjust my brain because it really clicked for me at the end is that this is a Neil Breen movie written by Danzig. If you are familiar If you were familiar with the cinematic oeuvre of these two men, Neil Breen and Glenn Danzig of the Misfits, this feels like it's such a bizarre crossbreed of their particular visions and their
Uh-huh.
particular like ways of doing things because holy crap, there's so much just funny shit that happens in this movie. So what this movie is about is this is the third in a line of movies about evil witches, evil witch goddesses
There
who are
there is
stationed in
a
different places around the world who
yeah.
are going to try to fuck your shit up at different points in history. And so this is the final one. Mother, the
Mother of
Mother of
Tears,
Tears,
Mother of Darkness, and Mother of Sighs. There's the three witch covens in the kind of mythology of this universe.
which ends up getting. I was laughing so hard during that exposition scene because I was like, wait, Guadagnino looked at this and said, yeah, I'm going to
I
steal this word for word and put it in my good movie.
put a pin in that. Put a pin in that.
Oh
I
no.
have something to say about that.
Oh no. But I will say, this isn't all bad. I actually do kind of like
No.
the scene in the library.
Yeah.
And when this movie does just kind of have to lock in and tell you what the plot is, it's okay. They got some of the best exposition deliverers in the world to do it, so it's kind of cheating a little
Udo
bit.
Kier. Udo Kier.
Yeah, when
Whenever he
Udo
shows up
Kier
in
is
a
delivering
movie,
the exposition, you just
I
lock
know
in no
I'm
matter
in
what
for a
he's
good
saying.
time.
I love Udo Kier in this movie, but oh my lord. So what happens is that the Mother of Tears is coming back, and so she's going to start making people do sin, I guess. And this, it's me, I'm the devil.
Are you
I'm here
quoting
to,
Snap Cube right now?
I'm here to convince you to do sin.
I, Jen, hand to God, I have been contemplating recommending you one of those just because I was all but certain that I'm the only person I know who finds those funny. And I
I'm
was like,
here to
maybe I could
convince you to do sin.
Hello, Shadow, it's me, the devil. I love you.
But the way that they start this montage of sin is I can't, you gotta say it. I can't.
So basically
It's too goddamn raw.
what happens in this movie is that like it starts off with a very giallo tropey thing, which is uncovering an ancient kind of cursed artifact that they bring to a museum, and this artifact is now like it unleashes a wave of sin and evil onto the world, and like what happens after that kind of initial museum incident is that we see various shots of where this takes place in different locations, and the movie is trying to give the impression that like mass hysteria breaks out. Even though with the way it's shot, edited, and directed, it kind of feels like it's just like a random Italian city block just gets a little bit rowdy for a while. Like
It
some
just looks like
cars
they
get
lost a
destroyed.
football game.
Yeah, I was just like, this is just Philadelphia whenever they lose. Like this just happens over here now. And that but they there is a certain escalation that happens when it's just like property damage, people running around and screaming and stuff. And then there's just a woman holding a baby on
Well, no,
this
that's the
little
first thing that happens, Jake.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
first thing that happens in the sequence is the woman with
So
the baby. And I
which
did
makes it
know about
even
that scene.
funnier.
I knew about that scene, and so I was like, wait, they're gonna start with the baby. And it does. And my thing is that the baby, I wouldn't mind so much that it's shot poorly if it was like edited a little bit better, if it had some kind of dramatic buildup, because there's nothing. There's
There's
no
no rhythm.
indication. There's no
Like
indication that anything is even going to start happening yet. This woman just looks over the bridge and
holding a
drops her
baby.
baby off of it. She's holding her baby. She's holding her baby, and then she just the
And
baby gets yeeted.
they yeet the baby, and then I love the sound editing there because it does like the panned like like you hear the baby just like
It
cry
looks like what they
faintly for
do
a
to Kenneth
moment.
Branagh at the end of Tenet. It the baby moves in the exact same way, where like the head hits and it flips over. Um,
Oh my God, that's so fun. That's fucking fantastic. And after this point, this movie just becomes nonsense. Like it is
it's
just an excuse for to follow our lead character played by Dario Argento's daughter, Asia Argento. She is just going places and things are happening to her. That is the movie.
which can work. I don't want to insist that there's
Oh,
nothing here to this script. I think the script is actually pretty decent. I think this movie could work if it had a lot better filmmaking behind it. And but that's what makes this movie so bizarre, right? Is that you have little things in the writing that I would probably punch up. Like I wouldn't have the exposition about the evil witch first to be delivered to the police man. Not he's not a police officer. That's just a Giallo thing. Be
yeah,
delivered
yeah.
to the husband or to the boyfriend by one of the other guys, because then it's just like, oh, the protagonist still has no idea what's going on, and now the audience does, so we just have to wait for her to wander up on something scary to happen.
Big
And
writing
like,
pet peeve of mine.
yeah, when somebody else knows the threat that isn't like the hero, and so the hero is going to walk up on it just as things are about to get bad. Like you can make that work with good editing, good cross-cutting, but this it just doesn't. Like it just holds it, because I presume I would call it an homage to Suspiria if I thought it had that much purpose behind it, but it's just like this really still shot of somebody explaining the plot to somebody else, which does happen in Suspiria, but that's
Yep.
like a break from all the crazy shit, right? Um, and man, this movie's score does not fit with how this movie looks. This movie looks ugly, and this score is trying to do a lot of the heavy lifting, which there's a lot of, classical operatic instrumentation and
which
atmospheric whispers of mother, 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 mother,
which
mother.
makes no sense because the composer is Claudio Simonetti, who did in fact score Deep Red, Suspiria, Tenebrae, Opera, Romero's Dawn of the Dead, etc.
Well, watch this and think that you could turn it into a banger with some good tracks. Look at me and tell me you think this is fixable.
See, and it's almost like it feels like some people may have realized the movie they had on their hands because it's like the score, like it's bad. I wouldn't want it changed though, because it accents these scenes in a way that is like it induces a kind of delirium in you. Like the train sequence when the fucking thing closes on his head and his brain turns into SpaghettiOs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All the crazy, all the like goth girls in this movie,
Oh my
so
God.
weird.
The
It's so
harem of goth
strange.
witches.
This is where my Danzig thing comes in, right? Where I'm just like,
Hmm.
oh, this is a movie about a bunch of evil, naked, crazy women standing around and making funny faces. And it is.
They make some goofy fucking faces at Argento. It's fucking hysterical. Like I love where they are just tailing her because they are like they are bringing hocus pocus witch energy to this movie.
and they are famished for murder. These people need to murder people so bad that they fly to
Constant.
Rome
They have a
constantly.
quota, they have a deadline, and they are getting shit done. Girl boss.
The first time that you hear the actual Mother of Tears speak, I don't know what I was expecting, but this is again where my Danzig thing comes in of like this is just some lady. Like you could not get somebody with even a modicum of like charisma to play this part. And so it just sounds like an anime teenage girl like is the villain of this movie.
It
And
does. Yeah.
that's maybe giving it a little bit too much credit because some of those performances are actually pretty good. But what I mean is that the character doesn't have the gravitas given in the performance. And so whenever that
Absolutely.
character speaks, the whole movie just falls apart. And
It feels like a bad dub of itself. And I mean, if any series of films is going to make that work to some extent, like you go back and you watch the original Suspiria, and that's a movie where every single actor was instructed to speak their lines in their native tongue. And let me tell you this much, not everybody in that movie's first language is Italian. So there is a lot of shit where people are just like, and just like it's just not, but in Suspiria that works as part and parcel of the strange, like they have charisma, they deliver that, like they have that scene with Susie Bannion where they're just like people with S names are snakes and they hiss and it's like what the fuck are you doing, and in this movie they're just kind of like like
it just looks like they
they,
didn't shoot it right.
they
It just looks like
deliver
they didn't shoot it right.
they deliver lines like their mom is asleep in the other room and they don't want to wake her up.
My favorite part of this movie are the weird demon faces. There's so
Yeah.
many weird demon faces in this movie. There's a dream sequence where one of them, like, he like sits up beside the bed and it's like this freaky demon head, but it just starts like gabbing, like doing this with its mouth. And there's like a big scream sound effect that plays, and you're supposed to be really scared, but it looks hilarious. And there's the one guy who like unhinges his jaw to like
Oh, it's
scream
so
at her.
silly.
It's so kooky. And like those are the kinds of things that could work if you just shot it a little bit better and framed it a little bit better and didn't like shoot it like a student film. Oh my God, this movie looks like I watched As Above, So Below, which is a movie that I put off watching for like a decade
Me as
because I
well.
heard it was bad when it came out. But everybody
Yes.
I know fucking fucks with that movie now.
Yeah,
And
it's a good movie.
yeah, this is like what I thought As Above, So Below was gonna feel like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is a found footage movie that we're talking about. And this is not a found footage movie, but it's got a bunch of acting that looks it's like bad found footage movie acting. Or it's like they talk like they're in a hurry. They talk like
Hmm.
they literally don't have time to do another take. It's so it's just so cheap. It makes me sad. This movie makes me sad, Jake.
Yeah, I'm really glad you point out the Danzig comparison because I didn't draw that connection, but now that I'm like recalling certain scenes from it, like there's the one scene with the two like like the main character is like harbored by these like two lesbian characters. And what happens to one of these characters is one of the most outlandishly violent things I have ever seen in any film. Point blank, period. It's shot horribly, but wow, I was aghast.
That's one of the few things, because I do appreciate this about the film, is that no matter how poorly you shoot some of this stuff, if you do it quickly, not
Mhm.
like Danzig shoots his violence, you can make it work. And there's one moment of big violence in this movie involving someone getting impaled in a certain part that
Woo!
that worked. I gotta hand it to him, just because of the nature of the thing. No matter how badly you shoot it, if you move fast enough, it will get a reaction out of me, and it did.
Oh
Just because
yeah,
I
I
did not expect it at all.
that was a moment on the Zoom call where we were all just collectively like, oh, all right, ow, that makes me feel a type of way. Like there are moments where you are assured that it's like, for as poor as most of this is, Dario does still kind of got it when he's implementing, practical effects work and whatnot, because it rides the line between kind of surreal and fake looking, but real enough to, be actively discomforted by. Like there is a lot of violence in this movie that when you see it happen, you're just like, oh, okay. And that is something that the original Suspiria does really well. Like in that respect, it does kind of have that. In fact, it kind of has that more than Inferno does, if I'm being real honest with you. But like, I am at least partially impressed by the practical effects work in this.
But that energy isn't matched by anything to do with any of the other visual components. Like the production design is so bland, the
No alchemy.
coloring, the coloring is so bland. There's just like nothing to
Oh.
synergize any of the violence with. And this is where I want to get into my biggest problem with this movie is, oh my God, the visual effects in this. Like there are movies that it feels wrong to clown on the visual effects because like, oh, it's a different time. People are having to try new things and da da da. It's gonna take a while to figure out. Some of that is aged considerably well. This though, Ghost Mom doesn't do it for me. I'm just
Oh
gonna say
man.
none of how that is executed does anything for me but make me laugh.
I
Um,
mean, it's some real like Adobe After Effects like oh man, we were in a hurry, weren't we, in the post-production of this? Like,
And that's where I'm
oh,
also like, if you just shot this on film so it would have some texture to it, it might look a little bit better. And so I feel bad for being like, oh, this movie's ugly. It's so ugly. Dur, 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 dur. But like,
look,
man,
I
this movie
I
is
have
ugly.
that problem with like movies all like I kind of think that that's a problem that Hollywood is really struggling with right now in particular, is that so many movies that come out that aren't necessarily from director auteurs or whatever. It's just like a lot of the bigger movies is just like there's a reason everybody made a big deal about how fucking good Sinners looks. It's because everything else looks like gray, sludgy, monochrome trash. It's like it's the fucking Netflix in-house thing where unless you get
Yeah.
somebody who's really fucking talented, it all looks the same.
And there's just like, to go back to the cheap digital filmmaking stuff, there's so many parts of this where I'm just like, oh, you made this on the cheap and you had to do it quickly. There's a part where like the sin is happening, and so one guy shoots another guy and it just hard cuts. And I'm just like, Mr. Argento, I'm begging you for a squib. Please, sir, may I
Like
have some
one.
squib? Give me, you just have to do it once. Not a lot of people use guns in this movie. But when you
No.
can't even like bother to try to put in a muzzle flash, I'm just gonna laugh. Like there are things, just because I've watched enough Best of the Worst, that when I see it in a movie that looks like this, it's just always gonna make me laugh. And a gunshot sound edited in over a guy just waving a prop around is unfortunately one of them. Um, yeah. And then we get
It
to the
it's
end.
a best of the worst movie. That's that
This
like
it very much is. It's very much in their wheelhouse. And we get to the end of this movie, and this does the worst Giallo thing, which is like everything has to end really, really fast. It's a thing that you can pull off in a Giallo movie if you really do it right, but some of those Giallo endings, I don't really fuck with the ending of Deep Red. I like that movie a lot, but
No,
that's one of those cases where I'm just like, no, I think I need 2 more minutes, please.
and original Suspiria also does this. It's jump out a window, movie's over, bye. Like
Yeah,
it's
and I love Fulci, but all of Fulci's movies do this as well, and some of them
yeah.
really do not make that work. But one of the what happens here is that she figures out that she's basically the chosen one who's gonna stop the witch from coming to life, and it's all this shit is so boring. It's so stereotypical, like chosen one bullshit. And she goes to do it, and then she does the thing. She like tears up her clothes, like that she throws her clothes in the brazier, and that's what you have to do to kill her, which is strange. Like you need to have no wonder you haven't been able to win thus far. Like
It's a
if that's
really
all it
specific thing
takes,
to do. Like, I don't
yeah,
know.
like, if that's all it takes, you've gotten in so many cat fights in this movie already. I'm surprised it didn't already happen. Um,
Honestly, and you know what's even more perplexing about this entire sequence is that what precedes it is like the longest tracking shot where nothing happens that I've ever fucking seen. Like they walk into this big fucking mansion and it's like 3 straight minutes of just going around, going up the stairs, and then they find the secret passageway to the basement and it feels like somebody hit the fast forward button and played it at 2 times speed. But man, this climax is fucking insane. It's just like you got a big fucking orgy happening. Everybody's naked and covered in blood, and then a giant statue impales the main villain.
Yeah, so like they burn the tunic, and so because this is an Italian movie, the building collapses, and and it collapses in a very Neil Breen fashion, that by which I mean with bad CGI.
Real, really badly lit too.
Really badly lit CG assets that just, I mean, it just doesn't look right.
Mm-mm.
That building ain't look right. You shot this in Rome. Like, I'm not saying you have to actually blow up the building, but give me something.
Other than fucking smoke image after effect dot png, which is
Yeah.
basically what it is. Like you're just looking at it and you're like, you just put a bunch of like dust and rubble and shit in the foreground of the shot, and then we're like, all right, the movie's over. Fuck it. Who's gonna see this
Well,
anyway?
and like the carnage that actually goes on inside of the temple is finally done. It's executed well enough.
Yeah,
But
it's
then you
fun.
get to the end and it's like a bad blue screen. It's like a bad blue screen shot of all the wreckage, and they spend just forever lingering on this one angle, like comparatively forever, because this, like I said, this is a fast movie at this part, which I kind of appreciate by this point, because it stops being funny when they get to the end. Like nothing really funny happens in the end apart from just the like, oh, look at that, they're doing a little orgy, isn't that cute? I just like
Isn't that adorable?
give me something to chew on here. I need a little bit more for this to be like my number one go-to funny bad movie. I just need a little bit. I need a clearly bad idea, not just a poorly executed one. And there are a lot of just poorly executed ideas in this
Oh, for sure. For sure.
that would be substandard and probably decent if the movie was just like looked better and was shot better. And I need a little bit of
Absolutely.
that crazy brain that I get from somebody like Danzig or Neil Breen, where I'm just like, how do you even think to do this at the start and think you're gonna be able to pull it off? And this movie doesn't have enough of that for me.
It's also if I could single out this movie's biggest problem, it's that it's an hour and 40 minutes and it should be 80. Like it's just it needs to be more concise and it needs to trim the fat so that it's just insane bullshit, insane bullshit, insane bullshit. The exposition kind of breaks things up a little bit, and then there's some parts that just kind of it lingers on too long. The what I will say in its defense is that I can't promise this will work for me and a lot of people I know in the same way that it will. Like it inherently relies on the fact that some funny bad movies can only really be enjoyed if like I know this is going to sound kind of dumb, but unless you have been to like film school or just have studied film, because you have to know how poorly these rules are being broken to recognize how funny it is. Like, because if you just showed this to like a random Joe Schmo, they might be like, yeah, that was kind of stupid, but like, whatever. And it's like half of this is funny because almost none of it works.
Yeah, yeah, there's definitely that element to it of it looks like in several parts like a bad film school product. Just so many of those angles are off kilter. Again, with the like production design and coloring also contributes very much to that feeling for me.
Oh, yeah.
But it just doesn't go far enough and it takes too long to get there. You're right. If you trimmed the fat on this, I might actually enjoy it a little bit more just because if we can stick with the crazy energy that's coming off these extras in the like evil scenes, I
Yeah.
might enjoy this a lot more, but they don't have the budget for that, right? They don't have the budget for it.
I want to circle back to something that you said when you commented on it's just like, oh, Luca clearly kind of crib notes here. And I've seen this movie 3 times now, and every subsequent time I became more and more sure that Luca Guadagnino was way more preoccupied with wanting to make a good version of this movie instead of the original Suspiria. Because when you put this movie under a microscope, this is the fucking Suspiria remake. Right down to the fact that the main character is revealed to have a bloodline lineage connection to the main witch coven of the film. It's the same story as the Luca
Yeah,
film.
it
It's
kind of
the
is, isn't it?
it really and the ending that's just like Luca just did that, but good. It's the fucking basement, the fucking weird shutter speed, the fucking crazy like he literally just made a better version of this. And one of the reasons I applaud that is that like one of the reasons I like it, and one of the reasons I like a lot of things is that I love movies that have a mythology within them. Even
Oh
if
yeah.
it's slapdash or even if it's not well thought out, that's just something that I really like to, wade into. And that's why I love the Suspiria remake so much is that that is a movie that feels like it has like 1,000 years of history informing everything that happens in it. And I always want to know more. And when Luca talked about making the Suspiria remake, he was like, I didn't necessarily want to just make a new Suspiria. What I wanted to do was make the version of that movie that I saw in my head when I saw the film as a child. And I was like, this is how everyone should do remakes. This, like, don't worry about accuracy or doing the same thing over again. Do the cool version of it that you interpreted and then translate that into something. And again, there's so many plot beats in this movie and so much of the genuine kind of insanity that, like, yeah, this movie in a better form does exist. Luca made it. And he was clearly interested in, like, there was even talks of him potentially making a movie about the character of Madame Blanc from that movie, which again shows me that he cared. And also, the editor of this movie edited Suspiria 2018. It's the same editor. That's not an accident.
Jesus. Oh,
That's
I'm sure it
he.
isn't.
Well, I mean, he also edited "Call Me by Your Name," "I Am Love." Fucking this dude is like an Oscar potential level editor, and he edited this, which is, I mean, we have demonstrated this is one of the most poorly edited movies I think I've ever seen. It is just like nothing about this edit is good.
Yeah,
Nothing.
there's no good edits in this movie except for maybe the bit with the demon face and the camera lens.
That's just, yeah, that's funny. That's just funny. And I appreciate bringing that gonzo energy to the new. I mean, it's like, it's kind of the principle that I was talking about like a couple episodes ago when in an ideal world, we should always remake mediocre and bad movies instead of good ones to, make them better. And that's more or less what Suspiria 2018 does, is that it takes the formula from a movie that was bad that nobody really saw and is like, hey, I'm gonna do my weirdo art house treatment to this because for some reason Amazon gave me a bajillion dollars to make this movie after I won an Oscar. So fuck it. And I respect the audacity, if nothing else.
Mhm.
Like it is a very strange choice, and I respect it. And This movie has a lot of issues, and I think every problem you have with it is 1,000% valid. I would still recommend this heartily to anybody who enjoys bad horror movies. Just maybe aid yourself with a bit of a substance. That might be helpful. And not to mention, there are simply many worse Dario Argento movies than this. Like, even if you're,
Probably.
oh,
I will say this does have the
definitely.
pacing. It has the pacing of a good like Mystery Science Theater 3000 entry
I
where
would
it's like
love to see that.
there's all these boring parts that you can kind of ignore, but then you better lock in when the crazy stuff starts to happen because it
Oh
comes
yeah.
like quick and fast, and when it does, you better not miss it. And so I would love the idea of like having this movie on with friends and doing that kind of thing and being in the know. But as for me, it's just I have better movies that I already do that with.
No, for sure.
Like Spookies.
Spookies. We
Like
watched
Spookies.
Spookies, which
We
is
love
just again
Spookies.
non-stop nonsense. Just nothing but nonsense.
Happy
And
birthday, Billy.
And there's an art to nonstop nonsense. Like the thing is that in broad strokes, I feel like you could apply many of the same criticisms to this movie to that you could to Suspiria. It's just that when you look at the original Suspiria, it's like, oh, the opening 10 minutes of this film is the greatest piece of horror filmmaking ever created by mankind. And, there everybody was in the kitchen. Everybody was like, we may not be adhering to all of the traditional rules of horror, but what we really want to do, we're going to do it better than anybody ever has. And that
Yeah.
commitment is just not here, even though largely it consists of the same people who made that movie.
There's just not the same commitment to the craft, and that makes the issues with the story that I have much more difficult to let pass by as I try to take in these images because frankly, I just don't care about any of these images. I don't like looking at this movie.
It's an
I don't
ugly
like
film.
looking at it.
For somehow it won me over in the end, but like spiritually, I am I think that it may be one of the most annoying things about me is how often I complain about how ugly movies are. It's just it's I but I and at the same time I can't justify why that bothers me less
We're
here.
people
Like
that we
the
just can't turn that parts of our brain off. If we're just like
no,
if we're looking at something that looks boring, we're gonna say that it looks boring. Did you see the fucking Stranger Things trailer that dropped today? Oh my God.
no, but does it look
It looks like
exactly the
that.
way.
It looks like
Okay, I
that. It looks exactly
Netflix's in-house
we both
lighting,
have it in our brain the way we think that's gonna look, and sure enough, it
and
does.
since we're big Flanagan heads, we're also keenly aware of the fact that it's like you can move out of that. Like you can stop doing the blue. You can. It's really nice when you stop doing the blue. All of the films look better when you don't do the blue. And
Everything that you love is blue.
but
Transformed into blue
it's
people.
it's I think what it has to do with is that like if you've ever done color correction, if you've ever edited anything in your life, you will never be able to look at films the same way again. Like I remember making a black and white short film in high school for my media arts like semester project, and the color correction on that took me weeks. I brought my fucking laptop to the lunch table to edit that motherfucker in school because I was like, I need to get this perfect. And it's black and white. People put black and white filters over movies that they make because it automatically covers up a lot of sloppy, kind of visually incoherent shit. And like I was sitting there just being like, I have to make sure that every shadow is where is the exact level of saturation and hue. Like color correcting is one of the most thankless jobs in the film industry,
Ugh,
but
yeah.
it is so important. Like Marvel is so bad about it. They're so fucking bad. It's why when you see a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and it's just like, "Oh my God, this is It actually looks like an alien planet that somebody would go on. Like this whole movie looks like No Man's Sky, and then I go back and look at fucking Captain America 2, and I'm just like, why does this movie look like the inside of a Denny's?
Unless there's smoke. Unless there's smoke. You would
So
think we
Jen,
would know. You would think we would know how to do smoke.
I mean, at this fucking point, like,
I'm
at this,
sure it's difficult. I know it's difficult. But you
it's
would think we would be able to figure it out.
I mean, it's difficult if you don't have a budget, but like if you do, then what the fuck are we doing here, man?
So I'm gonna put a rating on this thing.
Hmm,
I love that we decided to look at like what our good bad taste is because
that's what I.
we are people that pride ourselves on our good bad taste in certain
Yes,
ways. We have our trash babies that we love and that we search for. And I'll go into movies sometimes just being like, I hope that I fucking have a
yes,
great time with this, that I love
absolutely.
how bad this is. I watch movies I think are going to be shit all the time because I'm just like, maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the one that has that little feature to it. I think about some of the editing in Spookies all the fucking time. Is that
Oh
is
yeah.
actually a movie that's pretty well cut together, and that's kind of why I like it so much.
Uh,
Is that it just kind of packs all that in together really tight. And there are other like features of a good bad movie that I just have to have in order for it to work for me. And this is just missing a lot of them. Like, there's
Night of the Demons. That's another one that I actually
yes,
think
I
has
love
like
Night of the Demons.
it's that again, that I kind of feel like is the optimal version of what we're talking about here, in that I don't necessarily even think much about that movie beyond the script and acting are incompetent. It's actually well put together. It's just that, the more aesthetic textural qualities of a movie are just kind of forward-facingly bad. But like you can appreciate them for being bad. It is healthy to laugh at how silly bad things are. Like I think that that's a genuinely undervalued element of like the fact that, with the internet, you can literally watch whatever the fuck you want at any given moment. Like you can find anything. If you only consume things that are just like at the tippy top, your frame of reference is just fucked. Like you won't be able to appreciate truly good shit when you see it.
And you're not gonna find that in the big label stuff that tries on purpose to make stuff like this. Like there's
Hmm.
nothing in this world that I hate more and find more offensive to my tastes than like Sharknado. Um,
Oh, I hate that shit, man. I
when you're
hate
trying to
that
when you're
shit.
trying to manufacture something like this, I'm just gonna get upset with you.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
I'm
it's
like,
just
you
like
could make a good movie instead. You could make a good movie instead.
it's all part of the irony culture, the kind of nudge nudge wink wink. We have to constantly acknowledge how stupid we are so that the audience, we can't lose them for a second. We have to make sure that they know that we know. And I'm like, I don't fucking care, man. Like, why is this an imperative for you? I don't. It's why Neil Breen as a phenomenon is so fucking fascinating and consistently entertaining, and why people will show up and listen to that dude talk about filmmaking at fucking panels, is because you're listening to somebody who is cracked, who has an ego the size of 50 school buses, and he's making the worst shit you've ever seen. And it's
But he's got the
so
gumption.
He's
There's
so
gumption.
confident, man. I would kill for Neil Breen's confidence, man.
He's got the gumption. And so I think The Mother of Tears is it's a solid three. It's
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
would revisit this eagerly, especially with you over a bottle. But I don't think I'm going to return to it anytime soon.
Perfectly understandable. And for the record, dear viewers, we are implementing a bit of stakes into our a competition here. So when we award things
On the
a certain amount of
spreadsheet.
points, is that we are going to basically the first one of us to reach 25 points is going to be able to do a double recommendation. They get to decide what we're like, both things that we're covering rather than just one of us. And once somebody gets to 25, we're going to reset so that nobody is like trailing behind. Because I could say, like, I could recommend you three things in a row that won't necessarily get a high score from you, but I just want to talk about. And then I would be like completely throwing myself under the bus for this. So we're putting thought into it, but we're coming. We're coming.
The game is about to change. Um,
The hierarchy of power is going to shift.
hierarchy of power in Shannon Shake's bizarre phrase about to change. So my pick for this week is, I think, the longest thing we've had to cover. Is this longer
Oh,
than Full Metal Alchemist?
I mean, it
It's
can be.
longer than the segment that you told me to watch. So this is definitely
Yeah.
the longest thing that we've picked. But I did that for a reason. We're talking about Death Stranding, which is a game that I played a couple years ago for the first time. And I want to talk about how games like this, there's just something about game mechanics that I dig for. I'm just like, I want a game that lets me do this thing. Like no
Hmm.
other game lets me do this thing. For Sifu, I have fighting and like crazy combos and shit. And for
Hmm.
Hades and Hades 2, I've got my roguelike stuff. And I'm still working on like that shooter that really scratches that itch. But Death Stranding is the best game ever made about holding a thumbstick in a direction.
You
So
know,
Jake, what is Death Stranding? How do we get into this?
it's curious. When you recommended me this and, told me your affinity for it, the kind of conclusion that I immediately came to was that like games to me are the artistic medium that are the most inherently complicated because of the interactive nature of them. So, like, when it comes to tastes and my friends and stuff, we overridingly have a lot of similar tastes in games, but there are some exceptions to the rule where it's just like sometimes some games just got it and sometimes don't for some people. Like it just depends. And now that I've gotten my Steam Deck and I'm like trying to load as many games on my Switch as humanly fucking possible, because I kind of fell out of games as I started the podcast and kind of slowly replaced them with music for a while. So I was first of all, I didn't know that you were as avid of a gamer as you are. Like just dropping Hades and Hades 2 just let me know like, oh, not only do you play lots of games, you're based as fuck.
I know a
Fucking
little
love
bit.
Hades.
I know a little
Uh
bit.
yeah, but like when it comes to the medium of games, there are certain people who like I try to think about them like I think about directors in film. Like I think, there are people who have sort of ushered in a kind of institution that sets the precedent for what games are. I'm talking about people like Shigeru Miyamoto, for instance, is basically the Steven Spielberg of video games in that he builds the foundation that basically everything else is going to copy and steal from because of its incredibly elegant and medium specific design. And if Miyamoto is Spielberg, Hideo Kojima is like fucking I mean,
He's just kind of on his own wavelength. And the
he
thing about Kojima's games and what works so well about Death Stranding for me is that it's already very cinematically minded. And
oh,
so for the record, this is my only like full experience with any of Kojima's oeuvre.
that
But
is so wild to me.
what I love about this game is that it feels so cinematically inclined. This is Kojima's blockbuster, basically. And it comes at a time where the idea of game as blockbuster is increasing in the PS4 era. You know, you've got your Horizon Zero Dawn, which I have mixed feelings about. But I'm watching Renee play right now, and they're having a great fucking time, and that's where I'm getting my enjoyment out of that game.
Yeah.
You have your Forspoken. Is that what that one is called?
Yeah, something like that. I
You
mean,
have your
all of these
Forspoken.
games kind
You
of
have
kicked off
your.
by Breath of the Wild and that kind of stuff where it's like they are building games that are literally meant to be four quadrant, all things to all people in all ways.
I think that started with the last Uncharted, I feel like had that kind of
Yeah,
reputation underneath it. Or maybe it goes back even a little bit further to like the Telltale games, where like you
I
can make games that evoke cinema in a lot of ways that use pretty basic mechanics, or even get really deep into the mechanics of genre games. But because you're so narratively focused on that kind of four quadrant cinematic story experience, you're going to get a lot more mass appeal because people will deal with like having to go through a run and gun or like a fun car chase if it means getting to like experience fun characters and fun stories, you know?
it's well, I mean, honestly, you kind of hit the nail on the head with The Walking Dead, but it's the double-pronged 2012 releases of The Walking Dead and The Last of Us. To me, that kickstarted
Yeah. You're
everything.
right. This goes back to The Last of Us. If not, no, I shouldn't say. I was gonna say Spec Ops, but Spec Ops is a little bit more like culturally
Deconstructionist a bit.
entrenched, where The Last of
Yeah.
Us, yeah, does have that four quadrant appeal of like this is an appealing sci-fi story first and foremost.
And, you know, if I had to compare Kojima to a filmmaker, this man is the Godard of video games. He is somebody who, whenever you are playing something he's made, you are so cognizant of every single element and how it's all shifted a little bit to the left. Like everything about it is like when you play a Kojima game as a kid, he is so cinematically inclined that you kind of just take everything at face value. Like it feels like when I played the Metal Gear games when I was like a teenager, like an early teenager, the weirdness of this man barely registered with me just because he's again, it's so close to convention, but he just fucks around a little bit with everything. And that's why I love him. Like the Metal Gear Solid franchise is to me the premier video game franchise. It's not in the sense that like every game is a masterpiece, although it's really not that far from the truth if you ask me. But he is somebody who I kind of think the secret sauce of Kojima is the fact that it's very, very obvious that Mr. Hideous Kojumbo, Genius Kojumbo, this man resents the fact that he was unable to become a Hollywood filmmaker so much that he went into another medium and said, "Motherfucker, I still will." And there'll be a game in there too. And somehow he is able to make these experiences that feel so, again, entrenched in the medium specific idea of what games are. I think that like I love like the run of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like I love all of those games to some extent, some more than others. Like I'm a little bit less hot on 4 these days, I think. But I've always been in the bag for him. So the fact that I just skipped Death Stranding is like it just came out at the exact wrong time for me of like where I was just like the last big game I played was the Final Fantasy VII remake and I was just like this is another one of those four quadrant experiences where I was just like, we may have peaked here for a little while. I think I can set
Mm.
this down for a bit. And going to this, I was so curious because basically the only thing I even knew about Death Stranding at all, other than the incredible cast of characters, is that walking simulator. That is the
Yeah.
most common sort of thing thrown at it. But I'm like, I know that it's Hideo Kojima. It's not just that. But one thing I really want to come out the gate with is that look, I'm a Kojima mark, so this is obvious, but the first 30 to 40 minutes of Death Stranding is like one of the best horror movies I've ever seen.
It's
I'm
so scary in the
it's
beginning, dude.
fucking like and again, this is the dude who engineered PT, which if you ask me is the most important horror game of the 2010s. And it's not even like a full game. It's a demo. But that game knew how to scare more people collectively than basically anything I've ever seen. Like, I think that basically, like, before that, funnily enough, I think the most important horror game that came out before then is Silent Hill 2. And Silent Hill 2 is a scary game, don't get me wrong, but the reason everyone loves it is because that's a story that only works in a video game, and it's an excellent fucking story. It's a deeply morose, thoughtful, tragic narrative And then we go to PT, and this is the gamiest horror game. Like it doesn't,
It's a viral video as a
yeah,
horror game. We were talking earlier about the video of the like empty rocking chair and the blah. And it's like, what if a whole game was that and you had to like do the incentive to carry it forward and you
yes.
see how much your patience is going to get tested, how much of this you can actually handle. Because I can't even watch Let's Plays of PT sometimes.
Oh God, yeah.
I get too shook.
Like I think that like the kind of shit that this dude gets up to is the fact that like 2 years after PT even came out, somebody mined the game and it's just like, yeah, every single moment of this video game, the scary jump scare lady is literally behind your character model at every waking moment of the game. Like all the time. You can't see it because she tracks like your position, so you can't see it. And I'm just like, nobody's gonna notice that, but that's brilliant. I love weird shit like that, and the fact that like Kojima is just one of the only people working today who's willing to do that. I think the first like truly deconstructionist video game is The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, because Ocarina of Time is that was the four quadrant game. That was the Breath of the Wild of the 90s. And then Majora's Mask comes in to say, I am going to alter every single element of what this is and fundamentally change it on every level to give you an experience that is nothing like what came before it, but will rock you to your core. And when I played Death Stranding, I felt very similarly in how that starts. But just the beginning of this, which is basically just a long cutscene, which again, I played Metal Gear Solid 2 10, 12 years ago. Long cutscenes do not bother me.
It's a barrier for entry, certainly,
For
for
sure.
anybody who might be new to this kind of world. But that's
Mhm.
the thing about Kojima is that he is interested in making stories, you know, where you have to see all this stuff happen for the gameplay to be justified, for the gameplay to make sense. And so let's talk about the beginning because just describing the setting of this game feels like an insurmountable task at times.
Fascinating. I,
Basically,
I
what happens is that there's an apocalyptic event where the scientific community discovers two things at the same time. There is an afterlife and it's broken.
and it sucks. It's
And
bad. It doesn't work.
it literally doesn't work. Like souls are not able to pass to the
People can't
afterlife.
die.
People
It's
can't die. And so they develop this new understanding of Dead Man uses the classic dichotomy of the ka and the ha to describe it, you know, the classic terms of the body and the soul. The soul gets separated from the body, but because of whatever has happened to the afterlife, it can't pass on. It can't go through its liminal space between. And so the souls are just stranded on Earth. If they find their original bodies again, they turn into these antimatter entities referred to as BTs. And
mhm.
if a BT, because it's made of antimatter, comes into contact with living matter, everyone is a walking nuclear warhead. Because the first scenario where this happens is that during a C-section in Manhattan, a doctor describes seeing a BT approach him, and then all of Manhattan is destroyed. Um,
America is turned into a complete, like, not a wasteland, but just something that is literally devoid of all infrastructure. Like, everything is just gone. Basically,
yeah,
because, like, this has had a domino effect and has been happening for a while. And you kind of get dropped into in media res as Norman Reedus, who it was again he was one of the people he was collaborating with in Silent Hill, and shows up and is basically a carrier. He transports goods for people who, I mean, like, and that's basically the name of the game, is that there has to be a subdivision of people who are able to, transport goods, transport drugs, transport all kinds of shit, but it's really fucking dangerous because there's a lot of like the Death Stranding, that's what they call the kind of event of what happened, has ushered in all of this crazy shit of like, yeah, the everybody, like, if you die, you can't really die, and there's the warhead thing, but also there's this thing called the time fall, which is basically just acid rain that ages you forward if it touches you, which is again just one of those concepts that I'm just like, I love that somebody this cracked is making video games because nobody else would have fucking thought of weird shit
Yeah,
like
like
this.
who comes up with this?
And it's like it's high concept, and it's like what I love about the first 30 to 40 minutes of this specifically is the fact that Kojima definitely loves his exposition and he loves explaining things and he loves going in depth. But most of this is purely visual because most of the dialogue in this is like you don't really have a frame of reference for anything they're talking about. The exposition doesn't even mean anything to you yet. So it's just kind of witnessing Norman Reedus, who's going on this little event, whose his name is Sam Bridges, but it's not actually that. But go into that later. But basically, he's kind of on a job and then has to do this for like one of the like communes that happens, and like is transporting this thing. He gets into this truck with this other dude, and they have to transport this like dangerous little like substance, I guess. And basically the nuclear bomb thing happens, and this is like the central hub for this like community thing, and this entire sequence is horror brilliance. Like the fact that we have the little handprints like following in the dirt, like
Ooh,
you don't see
ooh,
what's making them
ooh.
ever, and you just hear like the noises and like little chittering sounds that they make. You're like, what the fuck is this shit, man? And you walk around, and then Leah Sadu is just there, and you're like, what? And then she's just like, yeah, I'm kind of a grandma everywhere, but I got my pretty Leah Sadu face, and you're like, huh,
Well, Leah
okay.
Sadu, so she plays a character named Fragile,
Fragile.
who is a like basically a kind of a tech bro almost. Like
Sorta, yeah.
she pioneers this transportation technology that gets taken advantage of by these terrorist guys, the mules they're called, who or the Homo demons. One particular sect
Demons,
of them that
yeah.
you fight is called Homo demens. And she is helping him initially. He gets to Central Knot City, which is so there. These are the United Cities of America now. They're still enacting president, they're still enacting government, but it's mostly been dissolved in favor of like, hey, we're just kind of doing everything we can out here to survive. So you do what
A
you need to do.
it is
Um,
America if only the federal government existed and was also completely bare bones in every respect.
yeah, and so Sam, Capital Knot City blows up because the first thing that happens is a guy commits suicide. He's about to turn necrotic, which means he's vulnerable to it's called a void out, the detonation that happens. And so they're like, Sam, go with our corpse disposal team to make sure that this guy like gets taken care of. They get attacked by BTs. A void out is caused. Sam wakes up later in a different city because Sam is a repatriate, which means he has the power to die and then come back from the space between and just continue living. Like
Hmm.
he is unable to die because he has this condition. Is it connected to Dooms? I still don't think
I
I
think
understand
I
that.
think it's just dooms. Like it's basically like it's a disease virus type of thing. And it's very much it's the equivalent of nanomachines in Metal Gear, which are the kind of all-purpose like if something weird happens, it's nanomachines probably. And this is so unmistakable. Like if you removed the fact that Hideo Kojima credits himself four separate times in the opening credits of this game, like I swear to God, you see a variation of directed by Hideo Kojima five times, and I'm like, never change, buddy, never change.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
thing I want to compliment though is that oh my God, this game cinematics are blocked so incredibly fucking well. And I want to mention that when Jen and I talk about what blocking is, for those of you who do not know, blocking is the art of camera movement relative to the position of your actors within a shot. Basically, when something is well blocked, it is the camera moving and following a conversation and then being able to like the starting frame and ending frame will be two different ones, but the motion of it will be smooth and the two compositions at the end of it will be like sound. Basically, it is what directors like Spielberg, Scorsese, like all of the best, they're great at it. They're able to position, and it's a very, it sounds kind of technical, and it is, but it is a very difficult art to master because if you do it incorrectly, your movie just looks fucking weird. Like
And
it
it's
will
still
look
an element
off.
of style, right? There are ways
Yes.
to do it stylistically, and Kojima has a unique style of blocking and shooting in this that is really
Oh,
great because the thing about this game is that it has a very hyper-realist aesthetic to it.
oh yes.
There are times where you're watching this, if you're not paying attention, you just think you're watching a live action movie with a coat of CGI over it
Yeah.
because there's so much attention to the detail of like bodies and faces and costumes and environments. And it's a particular look, and it's certainly like a graphical overhaul, and not
Oh
every
yeah.
game has to look like this, but
Well,
it implies a certain kind of intention about us, you know, that inevitably is also a statement of who you want your audience to be for this sort of thing. If you're making a game that looks like this, it's going to draw certain kinds of attention because there are people, and these people annoy me, who are
oh
just
certainly.
like obsessed with hardware and obsessed with like the limits of what games can do. Like, what's the one? Is it Crisis?
Crisis is the series that everybody uses to test how good their PC is. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the first Crisis game is one where it's like that has that hyper real aesthetic that really fucks with graphics cards. Um, But there's can always be good intention there.
Oh, for
And
sure.
this is a game where I really think the hyper realistic cinematic style fits with a lot of Kojima's sensibilities and lets the, you know, walking simulator stuff feel honestly pretty potent and pretty effective to do. Like
Oh
the
yeah.
game and its catharsis in its narrative wouldn't work if you, as Sam, were not asked to put the time in to do every step of the way. And that's why you spend a lot of time not walking in this game. You spend time listening to conversations, talking to people on the phone, figuring out what you're supposed to do, packing, getting equipment together, figuring out like
Planning.
they improved this in the second game. The way you can plan out all of your shit in the second game is so intricate and perfect because I'm just like I can put in as much energy as I want to into like looking at the map and seeing what kind of routes I can take, scanning the terrain, checking the forecast, right? And all this sounds really boring, but if you don't do it, you're gonna fucking die and have to start over again.
Well, and not to mention, it's like I inherently give more of a shit just because those cutscenes, again, they are so immersive and good at pulling you in. And the other advantage Kojima has as a director is the fact that the idea of a camera in a video game inherently gives you way more fluidity to work with than it does with a real like you can do a ton of crazy shit. And what you can do is that you can do it seamlessly. Like what I love about games like this and games like Metal Gear Solid 5 is that the transitions from gameplay to cutscene are seamless. Like they just kind of move in and out. And this, again, it really helps with the sort of immersion of it all. So I'm able to buy it just because, again, Kojima's been refining this aesthetic since Metal Gear Solid 1. He has been doing this. I am making it as real as possible so it feels as real as possible. And it's easier to buy all of the kooky, zany shit that he's going to do eventually because most assuredly Kojima will Kojima. And there, man, once we get like filled in as to what our task as a player is kind of going to be, there is so many little moments where I'm just like, brother, never change. Best moment of what I'm talking about is when you get kind of you're at this sort of like tech city place where you're first introduced to Guillermo del Toro, and he says it's like he says something along the lines of like, you know, it's what's best for us. And then Norman Reedus just turns, and then there's a giant map of America on the wall, and he goes, "Oh, us." I get it. And I'm like, oh my God, Kojima.
This
Jesus.
game, this game is about how Hideo Kojima wants to believe in the idea of America so bad, and I
Well,
kind of love it.
it's Kojima most assuredly doing that, and it is also a game about how this man, there is nothing on earth this man loves more than a good fucking acronym. That like the puns, the double, triple, quadruple entendres. Like I must point out that on the one hand, it is like beyond the pale of parody in this game how fucking silly this shit gets. I love that, frankly, but it is also something that in Japan, double meanings and like that's a different kind of language that like those things mean something different. It inherently plays different when you switch the languages. So that will not change that, or that will sort of like it will make the writing seem a little strange at some points. But I, again, as somebody who's been playing Metal Gear for like a fucking decade, this is something that I have just come to accept and that I love about it. And it's very like it does a good job at condensing the overwhelming information to something you can immediately understand because it sounds so keep it simple stupid. So in a way, I do actually think that this silliness is totally genius in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean,
And
so many of the supporting cast of this game is like the expert class who realizes that they need to figure out a way to like fix the world or we're all gonna die. So you have these people who are like experts on the ideas of death, transportation, medicine, like all these things just have to come together. And so they have to think of ways to like you said, keep it simple, stupid. And that's part of the appeal of like you go dead man, heart man. The president's name is fucking Strand. Sam is a mailman whose name is
Samantha,
Porter Bridges.
Samantha America Strand, because this game's plot, if you want to condense it into one simple thing, it is Norman Reedus must save America, the woman, and the country. And it's like, and there's a lot of like plot shit that I had not a damn clue about spoiled for me. You
Good.
eventually figure out it's just like and this also is just like yeah, your mom is the president and she dies, and like the first mission you kind of go on is cremating her body so that nothing bad happens. And I'm just like, okay, so we took the story like this is Metal Gear Solid 6. Like the idea of like even just like it's literally Solid Snake and Big Boss. It's literally the same thing. And Kojima has like you could feasibly argue that this man has been making the exact same game for 35 years. And to some extent it is true. This builds on the formula that Metal Gear Solid 5 sort of evolved from, of like the open world, the planning, the strategy, the building, the infrastructure. That's what this is, but it's the whole game this time. Like the stealth segments, like it has elements of kind of like stealth, but really more of like retreat. Like you can't really at first, you can't fight the enemies in this game. They are a force of nature that you must escape. You must plan around them. And that's what I love about this game, is that the maps, the terrain, the level design is not level design in the strictest sense, but it's like it will basically give you you need to go from here to here, and here's the terrain, here's how it's different. You can cross rivers, but rivers drain your stamina more than not. So you can get ladders to go across the rivers, but that'll drain some of your resources. Everything that you do in this game has a kind of tangible consequence to it. You have to like I tended to like I did play the game on easy just for the sake of being able to do as much of it as I possibly
You
could.
definitely want to
So
play the game on easy when you're doing the fucking Mads Mikkelsen fights because holy goddamn
ew,
fuck. That was
the
annoying. I was playing this game on hard mode and then I got to one of those and I couldn't do it just because Sam is so
it
hard to control during those parts. And
yeah,
it just doesn't fucking work if the
the
people can
same
actually
thing
hit you with the
happens
bullets.
in Metal Gear Solid 5. There are these like weird super soldiers who will continually interrupt your progress throughout the game at random intervals, and there are points where it's just like I was just stuck for days on one thing because I couldn't get the fuck away from it. And this is more or less the same, but there is a bit more elegance to it in how, again, like I tended to go on the longer routes because they would be less, impeded by a bunch of tiny little bullshit. So I sacrificed my time to basically have more resources. And that is the kind of alchemy of the game, is that you kind of have to it's resource management. Is that playing Death Stranding is basically playing Sim City. It is basically, again, you are building infrastructure. You can create roads. You can create things that make going back and doubling back on different locations easier. you can do different quests that will be aside from the main thing that will essentially make a lot of different things easier. It's again, it's a lot of the systems that are in Metal Gear Solid 5, but in my opinion, distilled into something that is a little bit more elegant. And that is kind of the overriding term I would use to describe Death Stranding as an experience, is that it is elegant. And I don't think I would say that about many Kojima projects, because even my favorite ones are a little clumsy. I think that, but in terms of focus, this is the most like refined thing he's made since Metal Gear Solid 3, my personal favorite of Kojima's works, which thank you for that.
It's
But
also
the
just my favorite multiplayer experience that I've ever had. And I
I
want to talk about this very
I did
carefully.
not get to explore this aspect of it just because my internet is wonky and I was unable to do like the, leaving stuff, system. But
Ugh.
like I did look up a lot about that, and I'm like, that kind of simultaneous sort of player interaction and the fact that it within the universe of the game is like you have to increase this, and it is building the idea of teamwork. And like it's like that is really fucking smart. I love that idea. It's almost like a Nintendo Street Pass-esque idea, but for a game about rebuilding the infrastructure of America. And like,
Yeah, all that
that's
stuff is
fucking
integrated.
awesome.
All that stuff is integrated in a way where it's textual. So basically, how it works in game is that you don't actually see any other players actively playing,
Mm-mm.
but you can find things that people have left behind. So
Like
you can
Souls
see.
games, they do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you can see like somebody's put up a ladder, maybe somewhere in a useful spot, and you can
Hmm.
see it. And they have this little social media where all the freelancing postmen have this little social media that they use, and they give each other likes. And there's a great article about how this game thematizes the idea of the freelancer.
This game is just kind of about the gig economy in a roundabout way. In fact, like this fucking game is like it reminded me a lot of Mickey 17 of all things. Like there is a lot of the same idea, and I mean, and both of them are, I find it very funny that Death Stranding is a game. Like, it is a weird game where there are a lot of weird things happening, and some people are just like, I don't know what's going on in this game. It's so weird and strange. I don't even know what it's about. And I'm like, maybe I'm just too Kojima pilled. This is totally possible. But the idea that somebody could play even 5 to 10 hours of this video game and come away with it thinking anything other than, oh, this is a game about Brexit and like the fallout of America in a post-Trump first term. Like that's just what the game is. I
Yeah, so I want to
it,
shout
it
out this article from Endless Mode, The Freelance Camaraderie of Death Stranding by Diego Arguello. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. But
perfect.
this article really helped me understand how this game works as like a game about social media and a game about isolation. Because even though you can't interact with other players, you have ways to find each other and kind of leave hints. You can leave little postage signs for people to follow. That's where it becomes the most Dark Souls, is there are ones that you can
Hmm.
just like put down a little neon sign that people can see if they get close enough to it, where it can be things just like a little motivational emoji or like even a direction that's like, this is where you go up, this is where you go down, this is where you make sure you get ready because there are BTs about to be there. Like people will
Mm.
leave little messages for you to find, or people will leave little tools for you to find. Or you can get to sections of the map where players on your server have already fixed the road. And so you can find a section of a road that's already put together, and you might be able to contribute some materials to the next part of the road. And that's very good to do because there's a battery system involved. And if you're on a road, if you're connected to the power grid, your batteries won't deteriorate. So it can behoove you sometimes to stick to where other players have been, or you can even use your little scanner to see footsteps of people that came before you
Yeah.
and see where they went. That's one of my favorite fucking things.
That's
When I
that's
see
a
a little
great
foot
one.
trail, and sometimes you can even see that from other characters in the game because like the little NPCs will have things that they're trying to build, or there's a great moment in the second game where after you do the second boss fight, you meet the person who's at the city you were trying to get to, and she gives you your next order and sends you on your way. But you can pick up a truck, and there's a bridge that hasn't been built yet, but she's left
Yeah.
behind all the materials that you need to build it. And so she helps you out. And it's a great way of the game to kind of more or less explain its mechanics to you if you weren't familiar with it, because you'll find things like that. Of there are these things called like post boxes where people will leave lost cargo that they can't get the rest of the way. But if you feel like taking a few extra pounds on you, you can check the post box and see if you think you can get something to where it needs to go. And I love this game as a multiplayer experience, man. It's so rich, and no other game has really tried anything like this with this many moving parts to it. And it really adds to the theme of Sam being an isolated entity because of the ability that he has to accept and provide help to others in those little transitory moments of being. It's why those segments of like spending so much time with Heartman, for example.
Hmm.
Like you spend a lot of time just chilling in Heartman with Heartman in his house, and then it just gets to the point where you have to go on to the next thing and you just have to leave and you don't see him again. But that connection that you build with that character as a player that Sam also builds with Heartman as an individual is just it's so rich, and you see how he's been able to contribute to this world in his own little way. And then you just have to leave and keep doing your thing because your job's not over either. And it's so great. Like this is a game about work in a lot of ways, and it's strange to say because it feels like a negative incentive to describe it that way. But that's what so much
No.
of the
Yeah.
theme is, right? It's a very blue collar story in a lot of ways.
The multiplayer aspect contributes to the kind of gentle optimism of the game, which I mean, it's like what you said. It is a game that is also about Hideo Kojima believing in the idea of an ideal America where people come together for the sake of coming together and not because there is any kind of incentive behind it beyond that, which, yeah, I mean, you could read that as being naive, but also I feel like the level of thought that goes into, again, the resource management of this, the mechanics of it, it's just like, it's basically laying it down and just saying like we have all the tools that we need to make ourselves better. We just have to get up our off our asses and actually do it. Because like that's the entire like the way I read the game is that Sam starts out as basically a disillusioned ideological centrist. He's a guy who doesn't vote in elections anymore because he's too disillusioned with the system. And what
Even though his
like the
mom is the president.
yeah, who even though his mom's the president and his sister is now also the president, and he has to go and save her. And so there is really something about that and how like mechanically it is so synergistic with its theme. And that is just always what he's so fucking good at is that like all the way back to Metal Gear Solid 2 where that game pulls some insane narrative swings that in any circumstance whatsoever you would just be like that what are you even fucking doing, man? And then you look at the big picture and you're like, oh, that's brilliant. And I don't think it's ever come together in a way that's made more sense than Death Stranding, which is a fucking crazy thing to say about a game this fucking nutty, because believe you me, it is fucking nutty. I really, I mean, just putting it all out there. This game rocks. I love this game. There are a couple things that
I
do
have
annoy
things.
me.
I have things.
One thing is that like I love Die Hartman's presence in this game approximately 60% of the time. The other 40% is like I know that the game is really complicated, and I appreciate how thoroughly it does explain itself because to some extent it is necessary. However, you spend a lot of time dreading that codec call sound effect of hearing, Sam, it's Die Hartman. I'm going to explain something to you in exquisite detail that you could probably figure out yourself. And again, I know you gotta, like, not everybody going into a game like this, especially since it doesn't have Metal Gear on it, is going to be familiar with its idiosyncrasy. So you have to be able to give the player all the information that they need. So I understand that. But again, as somebody who put 300 hours into Metal Gear Solid 5, I don't necessarily need all of that explained to me that often. And it does hurt the like, I haven't even gotten to my favorite thing about this game is that it is unfathomably relaxing. Like there are points where it revs up the tension, but just the walking part of it, the planning part of it, I find this so therapeutic. Like this is the
Sam.
like I can the exact moment I fell in love with the game part of the game. I mean, I was in love with the story part of it from the moment it started. But the moment I fell in love with the game part of it was when you started drawing you can do the waypoints and then you can draw the line and it makes this buttery smooth little sound effect when you connect the dots together and then make a little path. And I was like, oh, I see the vision. And that was just like all I did. I just started like doot, 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 and then I would go off on the thing, and then you're walking, and then all of a sudden a fucking low roar song starts playing, and it's this beautiful Icelandic fucking landscape that I'm walking through, and I'm holding the left and right trigger so that he's moving a little slower, but he's moving more balanced so that he can conserve his stamina a little bit more. I'm like, oh, I can go up this little mountain, and it's just, it is so relaxing and just kind of like I like if this was what was required of everyone to make Hideo Kojima's Making America Great Again, if this was what was required of us, fucking like I would do this shit in a heartbeat because it's just so fun. Like it is, like it does sound like tasks or chores, but again, like do you know what some of the greatest works of art of all time are? They're all made by Hayao Miyazaki, and they're all secretly about how much you need to do chores and about how you need to work for the betterment of your community and the betterment of everyone around you. And that's Death Stranding. Death Stranding is about connections. I mean, like it is very obviously, it presents the idea of the stick and the rope, the two most essential core inventions of humankind. The stick is a weapon that keeps things away. The stick is something that you use to defend yourself. The stick is something that is offense. The rope is something that you use to connect each other. The rope is something that you use to, create a lasting connection with someone. The rope is a strand. The strand. Do you know that the S in strand stands for strand? Fuck. I love that shit so much.
So the thing, you're right. The kind of middle chunk of this game after you've done the initial, like all the expository
Onboarding
dumps,
process.
all the onboarding process, once I got into this game's flow and I was just meeting like the musician and the engineer and the engineer's wife, and I was just once I really got into the flow of like doing orders, this is my open world game. And that is what I mean
Oh,
when I say I have my games that fulfill like all my genre wants.
mm-hmm.
This is my open world game of choice. Second only to No Man's Sky, which I come back to in
Bought
fits
that
and
recently,
starts
yeah.
often, still to this day. Um, but what I love about playing this game is that you're right. I love kicking back and putting my feet up with this game and just like hopefully trying to dodge BTs and just going. And I
Mm-hmm.
love because I always get so overwhelmed with how much shit they cram into games that are of this size and move like this. But I love hitting that little scanner and seeing what I can find and having to make a snap decision on whether or not I should just carry it with me. Because that's the thing, is that there is a lot of stuff to find out there, but it all contributes to the goal. It's not Korok seeds. It's not Korok seeds. It's like somebody lost something. Do you think you can get it? And that's the game.
That is a very elegant way of putting it. It's also like it does to me feel like the first real development we've had in open world games since, that wombo combo of Breath of the Wild and Tears. And in some respects, it is a lot smarter about its game design. But even still, like it's kind of on the opposite end of the gradient of open world games, which frankly I think have long outstayed their welcome. Like that was like my only like problem going into this, is that I was wary of the fact that like how many of the tired open world game traits are going to be in this that bug me, and none of them, frankly, none of them at all. The issues I have with it are like completely separate from that, and like I'm somebody who just like I don't understand the appeal of games like Grand Theft Auto. Like it does not make any sense to me why people would play those games. And I'm not saying that I like judge anybody for it or whatever. It's just like you have this big open world where you can like do everything and like go anywhere, and it just becomes a game about like nothing. And then the story of it is this completely separate linear experience where you have to go and do these things that are like set in stone. Like Rockstar's game design is all about playing things the way that the dev team wants you to play it, and if you deviate from that in like an inch, they're like, no, fuck you, go back. That
Yeah,
like
actually,
that
no.
drives me insane. I'm like, again, the more meditative open world experiences like No Man's Sky, Breath of the Wild, Death Stranding, those are the ones I really like. It's like there's no Ubisoft towers in this game. There's no fucking like even the side quests are things that again loop around into the main gameplay loop that again seems complicated, but once you have all those tools at your disposal, it creates an experience that like you can play this game so many different types of ways, and I feel like it just really wouldn't get old. That like
And
that
it would let you
other
do it. That's the thing too, is that it
yes,
truly feels like you everybody will tell you that there is an ideal way to do things in the game,
not
and like
really.
Die Hard man especially will be like, Sam, you should try this. And you don't really have to do it. You can
No,
just be like, that's a nice hill. I'm gonna walk up that
yeah,
hill. It's on the way.
that
I'm
and
gonna see what I can
as
find.
someone who because my like gaming longevity, like I grew up with basically exclusively Nintendo consoles until 2012 when I got a 360. So I'm somebody who is really used to very linear game design. I am somebody who is really used to the fact that like I would play like old games and even like old RPGs and stuff, and there would always be those fucking moments where I was just like, that mountain, like I want to go on that mountain, but like it's in the skybox. You can't fucking go in that mountain. And then I play a game like Skyrim and I'm like, oh my God, I can go anywhere in this game. What the fuck? So that still has value to me as somebody who grew up with those like linear experiences, which I mean, that is not inherently an issue, but you grow up and you're just like, I want to feel the sense of adventure of being able to go anywhere. And that is literally what this is in its most boiled down essential form. And I really like, again, I got to applaud making it this way and making it feel elegant. There are so many mechanics in this one game. I feel like you could be overwhelmed. Like I have still not played Tears of the Kingdom yet, just because everything I've seen about that game, like, and I'm sure the game is great. Everyone I know loves it, but I look at the amount of shit in that game and I'm like, that sounds incredibly overwhelming to me. I need to wait until I am ready for that experience because it's a lot. And on the outside, I probably thought the same of Death Stranding, but like once I got into the swing of things, it was like, no, this becomes a loop that is just infinitely fucking fun. You basically have to progress from the East Coast to the West Coast of Iceland, America. And you do have like the encountering BTs and stuff. It is kind of like annoying in the moment or whatever, but like it never
It's still
lasts
in
long
they
enough
still
for me
market this
to
as an they still market this as an action game. So let's talk about the
yeah,
action because I think that will get us into a conversation about my least favorite part of this game. But what I do like about the action of this game is that it's built to happen in fits and starts. There are
yes.
ways to avoid conflict that you're encouraged to try and that you can do. But if you're feeling confident and you want to go raid a terrorist camp with, you've got your bola gun, you do get some good weaponry late in the game that makes
Yeah.
combat easier to deal with as things do get more intense. So you can get like rubber bullets so people don't die. You can get bullets that are laced with blood so you can shred the ghosts with assault rifles.
That's sick.
Um,
That's fucking sick.
yeah, it's great. But you don't get that for a while. So for several hours of the game, you basically have to avoid BTs at all costs, unless you can get a really good grenade arm on you. Um, and so you have all these mechanics of like holding your breath so that the BTs don't catch you and stealthing and you've got
Maintaining your
these
balance so
grenades.
that you don't get knocked over.
Yeah, you got to keep your balance because the BTs will try to like drag you down and steal your shit. And then you got these terrorist guys that you occasionally have to go like steal things from. So you got to figure out how you want to engage like a group of enemies at the same time who are gonna shoot at you and chase you in cars if you try to run away. And so you have to figure out what your solution is going to be there. And you can do that with stealth, or you can do that with, heavy artillery. You just go in with a bunch of guns and nothing else, and then you just grab the shit you need to grab and then you leave. There are ways to deal with it. And that's what I love about the action in this game is that it's also built around that kind of freedom of choice and freedom of
Mm-hmm.
movement element of it, where just as much if you're not prepared for combat, it's not going to be a good time. But if you
Mm-mm.
want to, and you prepare, combat in this game is really fun.
It is the most Metal Geary aspect of this experience. It's just like, yeah, this is definitely a guy who's been thinking about ways to interact with problems in games that do not have one set solution. You need to be able to like that's the kind of player expression shit that I absolutely live for, is that you need to give me options, but you also don't need to tie those options to like morality systems or something, which is something that frustrates me in other games. Like Dishonored, for instance, is a stealth game that basically punishes you for playing it the most fun way. Because it's like you have to, in order to use all of your abilities and all of the stuff, it's just like basically encourages you to kill people, but at the same time, if you do it the stealthy way, you get all the good story beats and whatever, but that is a less fun version of that game. Death Stranding exists in a liminal state where there is no less fun version of it. It is just merely the version you want to be playing.
Yeah. Well, and they also do this by very cleverly setting up the idea that you shouldn't be killing people, but you have
No,
ways to incapacitate them. So you get a lot of non-lethal weaponry that's really fun to use. I love fucking shooting at people with the bola gun
the
every
rubber
single time.
bullets. It's
I
it's
love the
good
bola
shit.
gun. I love the rubber bullets. It's so fun and it's a little bit clunky, but I like how clunky Sam is to play. Like when you actually are doing combat, you can just straight up tackle people. And if
Yeah.
you're carrying enough stuff on your back, they just won't get back up again.
I like when they like grab onto you like towards the beginning and your only command is just you gotta be like, get the fuck off me.
Yeah,
Fucking
you just have to
shit.
like kind of shake your shoulders to get the BTs off of you, but you can also like steal their cars and just drive away if you really don't want to
Oh.
fight them. And if you get far enough away, eventually they'll leave you alone. Um, but the game sets itself up so that its mechanics fit within its narrative and its thematic conceits. It's the opposite of a Dishonored, where it's giving you the
Mm-hmm.
option to do more fun things that's going to punish you for. It's like, no, nothing. There's rarely a wrong way to approach a situation as long as you're prepared to handle with the consequences of your actions. Which
You know,
leads me into my least favorite part of this game, which are the fucking boss fights are terrible. And I can't believe I'm saying that about a Kojima game. Every time I get into like
yeah.
a forced combat scenario in this story, I want to turn the game off.
Yeah.
The character of Higgs Moynihan is a guy that I just fucking hate because he makes the tone of this game go completely off the fritz, and then he always puts you in some fuck ass boss fight that you're going to be doing forever because the bosses don't have interesting mechanics.
No.
Sam is not interesting to fight with in more than fits and starts, and so all you have to
No.
do is just run around, look for guns and empty clips, and that's all you can do.
It legitimately feels like a different like second unit-esque team designed these parts of the game. And what baffles me again, like you said, I can't believe I'm saying this about a Hideo Kojima game, is that that motherfucker does boss fights so goddamn like the entire like I can trace the ethos of Death Stranding back as far as Metal Gear Solid 3. Have you heard about a boss fight in this game called The End?
Oh yeah, I know the thing. I know the
Okay,
trick you can
well,
do.
that's the thing. You can leave your game on for a week and this old guy who you fight will just die. That's fucking genius. Like, you can beat that, like, I guarantee you, there are ways you can beat that boss fight people haven't even discovered yet. It's fucking nuts. And that level of elegance and freedom is like, it is the only time where it feels like a Rockstar game where it's just like, if you do not do this in the exact way that I want you to do this, you are going to fucking fail.
Well, it's like
And
there's
that
no other
sucks.
option. You either
No,
find guns and empty clips into the things, or you just keep walking until you find it. There's no creative solutions to problems with the bosses. It's just all, and maybe there's certainly a thematic element there where like, Higgs is a simple-minded nihilist person, and so he's like, I've got a big thing, and here it is, and it's coming to kill you because I'm the God particle. And I
Gah.
fucking hate this dude. He's like what I'm trying to think of an example that I can comp him to of like a bad version of a good character that I actually do like. I just don't have it in me. Like I hate this guy.
I still know what you mean, and that does bother me too. It's because it's the only time where the game just kind of shutters its own mechanics in order to do something that feels unrewarding, I guess. And the other complaint I have with the game is honestly, like I kind of already mentioned it, but it is my biggest issue with modern game design since maybe like 2017. Why is the onboarding process to every game so fucking long? And look, even games I love have this problem. Especially games I love have this problem. Fucking the Persona franchise is nothing but games that do not start until you have played 5 hours of them. It's the same. Like after you get past the part of it that's the coolest horror movie of the decade, there is a stretch of time that lasts for like 2 to 3 hours where I'm like, okay, I would really like I am on board. Please let's go. And yeah, it's a problem that disappears once you get into the swing of things, but modern games need to find a way to just jettison this into space because it it is a real momentum killer. Like there are just moments in this where it will stop and it will be a little bit unintuitive about what you are supposed to do, where you're supposed to go if you don't have it blatantly spelled out in front of you in terms of what your like mission goal is. And it's just like, okay, fucking like I don't think that like I shouldn't have to look at every single fucking interactable object in my room to be able to leave my fucking room, and you hide where the interaction points are on the screen because they're everywhere and you can't like you don't know where you're supposed like please just let me continue to play the game. I'm having a great time. Please let me. And like again, this is just sort of like I was able to take it a little bit more in stride than I am with some other games, but it was an experience where I was like, I am so intrigued that whenever this halts its momentum even a little bit, I'm like jonesing. I'm like, come on, I want to see
Yeah,
like
I'm
what's
just like,
Mads Mikkelsen
please.
doing with that fucking baby? What's he
I'm just like,
doing?
please, can I get back to walking? Um, I love so much of the narrative structure of this game, including the Mads Mikkelsen stuff. I actually think the Mads Mikkelsen character is really kind of perfect. And
I love that part.
if it was just that, because the segments where you're in his beach embrace the mechanics of the game a bit more,
Yes,
even if it's very punishing at times that I find frustrating.
I
It,
was
it's
able to
engaged
take that
with
in stride.
it's engaged with the way that the game is designed to work, whereas Higgs just feels like an alien from a different
Hmm.
game who doesn't belong here. And I would even the last fight with him where it becomes like a fisticuffs and you got the health bars at the top of the screen. I'm like, that's cute. You're evoking some of your old final boss battles, but it just takes too fucking long to kill that guy. Sam is not interesting to fight with.
Yes, and
Like
again,
I play Sifu almost every single day to kill time and chill with. I'm just mashing circle when I play this game, and that's fine when it's in fits and starts. But when you have to
not the
do that for like
whole stretch.
10 minutes to beat Higgs, and I'm maybe being charitable, that is just, it's so punishing
Love it.
for no reason. But I want to get to talking about the ending of this game because this story is insane.
I I
And I
do want to
want to
point
know
out.
what you think about the ending of this game.
Well, I have to be. Unfortunately, I did not finish it. I was able to get pretty fucking far. I know a little bit about the ending. I know enough to talk about it, just because I wanted to have at least a cursory knowledge of like what was going on there, and just because it seems to be the point of contention with a lot of people. Like some people really love it, and some people really don't. But like I was able to push through about like 30 hours of this, and I haven't quite gotten there yet.
It took me about
But I
35 to finish it Yeah.
Okay. So if I have any updated thoughts, I will proceed in coming weeks just because in case I haven't made it abundantly clear, I love this game and I'm probably going to finish it soon. That said, I am not like I'm not a very like I know enough to be like to talk about it. You can talk your shit, King.
I'll have my one complaint about the ending without spoiling any of it then, because I don't know how much you know. Basically, the pacing of it is really off for me because
Yeah.
there's a part where you, as Sam, are in one of the beaches talking to one of the characters, and it transitions a lot between gameplay and cutscene, but it takes a while to do. So you'll spend several minutes just like walking around waiting for the character to start talking again. It's very
Hmm.
frustrating. It takes like
Yeah.
it goes full Metal Gear Solid 4, and then it takes like an hour and a half to get through the last set of cutscenes. And I would be okay with that if part of it wasn't sprinkled in this weird, not quite gameplay segment that takes forever to get through. That's all I wanted to say about the ending. I think textually, thematically, the ending is really great. I love the way that the story resolves. It's just that one little nugget of a complaint that I have with one particular segment of it that really frustrated me.
Pacing has always kind of been Kojima's Achilles heel because there are some like what I love about Metal Gear Solid 3 is that it is his best paced game by a significant margin. Like there is always a point in the third act where you think the game is gonna end and it doesn't. Like there's always that part where some aspect is super protracted and I'm never really sure why, because it seems like you're really interested about this and you're really interested in talking about this, and all of this here in the middle between these two ideas feels like dead air, and I'm not really sure why that is. It doesn't feel very relevant. It's just like get to the stuff that I know you want to be talking about, please. That would help a little bit. But I am very, very intrigued to see with how it does end up resolving itself because again, we don't have many people quite like him. Like I know that praise for that dude can kind of be overblown, especially in like online circles and stuff. But you gotta look at the bigger picture with something like Death Stranding and something like Kojima, because like what are video games without Metal Gear Solid? What like think
Yeah.
about the things that those games did before a bunch of other games did. And, I know that there are games like Thief the Dark Project and stuff who, kind of did a similar sort of stealth action narrative kind of thing. But like, this is the guy that everybody can cite as being like, he's the dude pushing the medium forward. He's the one breaking boundaries. He's the one breaking rules. And it feels like we are really oversaturated in a market of video games that are so afraid to break rules, that are so afraid to
And
do
he's a
something different.
guy, he's a real auteur in the sense that he has a recognizable tone, right? We've joked about how much we like the last, or you don't like the seventh one as much as I do, but we both kind of joke about how we love that Christopher McQuarrie got on his Metal Gear Solid shit for
Yes.
the last two Mission Impossible movies. And not everybody likes that flavor. That's fine, but I majorly fucked with the Final Reckoning because it
Yes, me
leans
too.
even harder into the Kojima influence, especially
Oh,
like
for sure.
Tremel Tillman's character, straight out of a Kojima game. Everything about that segment feels so like ripped right from this, honestly. More Death Stranding than Metal Gear Solid. Um,
And he's also somebody who's like insanely cinematically literate. Like you go back and with Metal Gear Solid and it's literally like, oh, like the first game is like it's Assault on Precinct 13, but like it's like a military thing, and like Snake is literally named after Snake Plissken, like fucking, and Revolver Ocelot is literally just fucking Angel Eyes from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like like it's one of those things where it's like I love being able to recognize when an auteur is shamelessly showing off that they love something else. Like I know that that can take people out of the experience, but like to me, it's a mark of just like, hey, I love this thing so much. I wanted to, put it somewhere in here so that you can know that I love it. And it's
yeah,
just
like
like
nothing
th
beats
th
a good, sincere homage.
Yes, and Death Stranding has like a lot. Like you can tell that Hideo Kojima has been like, you can tell that dude probably watched Annihilation a couple times, perhaps. You can tell that, he's been reading up about shit going on in the tech sector. Like the fact that this game is already multiple years old and I'm playing it and I'm like, this is like one of the most prescient works of art I've experienced in
This
a good
game went to
long
another
while.
level. This game went to another level during the pandemic, which I played it
Oh
in
yeah.
like 20, I played this in 2023. I got the director's cut when that, I don't know if right when it came out, but I
Mm.
got the director's cut and I played that back in 23. So it was a little bit post-pandemic. It definitely wasn't, I wasn't in that state of mind, but the game takes on a whole other level with that experience in your head that maybe it didn't have at the time. But it also just feels like I compare this very strangely to Cormac McCarthy's novel The Passenger, which I read about the same time that I
Wow.
played it. Because yes, they're very different tonally, but The Passenger is basically a road novel. Like it's
Mhm.
all about this guy traveling to different places, meeting different
Cormac
people,
McCarthy likes those.
trying to go after this one little MacGuffin, solve this one little mystery, and reconnect with a lost family member. So there's a lot of connective tissue there. I joked one time to a friend that I would already be like writing the paper, putting these two works side by side if anybody ate any real food in this game. People spend a lot of time in the passenger eating food, which I love. Um, but the one thing I should also, because this did not strike me initially until I started playing the second game, Kojima, I won't go so far as to call it a problem, but Kojima doesn't have a large variety of women in this
That has
cast.
always kind of been a problem.
Yeah, and it's a thing that I don't want to like ignore,
I
especially since
don't.
this is my first experience with this oeuvre. And I'm not saying that you do. It just felt like a thing that I wanted to make sure that I brought up because it's a conversation that has started happening around the second game. I don't know
Mhm.
entirely what's happening there because I'm not too far into it and I don't want to get spoiled. But I know with this game, I am endeared to a lot of these characters. Like I
Yes.
like all of these characters. Don't get me wrong. I don't think any of these women are particularly like bad examples, but they can feel samey.
S- And it's because every one of them is modeled after the first time he got it right with the boss in MGS3. They are all variations of her, and she's a great character. It's just that we should, and let's not forget the quiet incident, which
I'm not gonna comment on that because I haven't played that fucking game. So
well, I have, and it's as embarrassing as everybody says it is because I mean, for those who don't
I've
know,
seen
is
the
that
one
there
part in the helicopter.
there
Um,
well, it's that and like the design of Quiet came a little bit under fire and like her lack of clothing. And then Kojima just kind of went on Twitter. It was just like, you will be ashamed of your words and deeds when you figure out why she's dressed this way. Like, I'm using the exact verbiage he did. I'm not kidding. And like, you find out that, like, oh, she's got nano machines and needs to be naked to breathe. And it's like, this it's just like, this isn't misogynistic. You just hate, you want women to not breathe. And it's like,
so she shouldn't
uh,
breathe then.
yeah,
So she
literally.
should die.
It's just like, you want her to die, huh? Are you a misogynist? It's like, dude, we need to circle back.
Yeah, like when I
And
hate when people do this shit, and Kojima is definitely guilty of it in this instance where they use like they work backwards to argue in
yep.
favor of the work, where it's like, no, the problem isn't that
The
the
problem isn't
problem
that
is
it
that you
exists,
wrote it.
it's
The
that
problem is that you
somebody
wrote
wrote
it
it.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
precisely. And it's like, and the thing is,
I'm not
again, it's just
victim
like,
blaming the character.
no, it's just like, it's a fictional fucking character. I don't
You
but, and
didn't have to write it like that.
one aspect of this that is lost in the shuffle is that Hideo Kojima is one of our premier Westaboos in that he just, I mean, slurps up American culture like it's going out of style. And it's just like, yeah, if some latent misogyny pops up into his games, Who do we think that really reflects on instead? Because I have a feeling it's all of the aggressively American media this guy has done nothing but consume for all fucking 60 years of his life.
That's the
So,
thing, is that it feels, a lot of it feels like patriarchal and condescending at points in
yeah.
a very American sense, where a lot of the look, the issue that I have with the way that these female characters are written in this game is that they're all in some way tied to whether or not they possess beauty. Like I'm thinking of Fragile's
Hmm.
condition. And I'm also thinking of like the matrilineal stuff with like Amelie, with Bridget, with Mama. They are either defined, and this happens to Fragile in the second game, not to spoil it too much. Fragile
Hmm.
gets saddled with the baby at some point, and
Which,
they,
which is fucking crazy because the character that these are all modeled after is somebody who like is basically forcibly stripped of a lot of her womanhood by men, but like does her shit anyway. Like it's a really complicated, interesting character that just like he never recaptured that again. He never got that dimensionality right ever again after that.
yeah, and like the struggle with motherhood, especially in the case of the characters Mama and Lockney, are
Hmm.
all very explicit and talked about in explicit terms, whereas the struggles of manhood are allowed to be told in a lot more impressionistic, cinematic means.
And
And
the men are just more like like they're more internally motivated and have more like interesting things going on with them, whereas the women kind of feel like they all suffer from variations of the exact same like semi-stoic personality that they've got going on, where it's like I don't necessarily think that they're poorly written or anything, but they are all like they if you
reserved.
if you do the character test of trying to see if characters are different from each other based on whether or not they're going to make a certain decision at a certain point, and you line up all of the characters and like what would this person do, what would this person do, every single one of them would make the exact same decision as far as I'm concerned, because they don't have like a lot of interests or anything that like adds to like their motivations or like anything that feels like it's an internal desire of theirs. They're very passively written characters. They do not display a lot of forward thinking agency. And like, again, this is not a huge problem. It's just something that is very obvious if you've been following this man's work for a long time. And it would be nice if we could maybe get something a little different. That's all I'm saying.
I uh, I wish I could say I've heard the second game improves on that a little bit, but even from what I've already played so far, it's kind of struggling still. But what I want to say to try to wrap this back around is that I
Hmm.
actually do really love the character of Amelie.
Yeah, yeah, she's
I
cool.
think she is the best version of this kind of character, where she
Yeah.
is saddled with, and this maybe even resembles the boss, but she's saddled with this immense um, responsibility that she has to
Yep.
figure out how to deal with. And the whole process of the game is about finding her and basically her having to figure out whether or not she can actually shoulder all of this, or if she wants to go through with it. And I'm not trying not to spoil too much because I don't
Mhm.
know what you know and what the audience knows, so I'm just going to leave it out for now. But I think the character of Amelie is generally very well done. She's the best of
It,
all of these characters
yeah.
because she has the most of a presence in the game. That's the thing too, is that a lot of these women kind of blink in and out of the game or have very short
Yeah.
story arcs, whereas characters like Dead Man, Die Hard Man, Clifford, obviously Sam, have arcs that go through the entirety of the game to figure out. Whereas the character of Mama, and it's fine to have characters that are only there for the second act, but
Yeah.
Mama like resolves her whole story arc in like three missions, and then you never see her again.
It's yeah. The version of it that's good, like Amelie and the Boss, is definitely the, woman who is shouldering an unbearable burden of responsibility that nobody else can, and that like they are like ultimately tragic figures because they have to make some kind of impossible sacrifice that will not only end up like weakening them, but it will also be completely unrecognized by the world at large. It's like that's actually a bit of a poignant piece of writing in his respect. I will totally give him points for it's just like, yeah, there are opportunities and points in these narratives where you could say that like, oh, and this person was recognized for their sacrifice. It's like, no, the fact that they were women was actually part of the fact that they were ignored by a lot of people. So it's like, okay, there's something smart there. It's not all bad, but fucking like just saying, maybe, maybe Death Stranding 3. Maybe we can we can if we
Maybe.
can
I
hope.
don't know. We'll see. I it's not a thing that bothers me so much. I feel like I can't play these games in good faith.
No,
You know what I mean?
no.
It's just a thing. It's just a thing we talk about.
Yeah.
It's a thing that people get a little bit weird and a little bit racist about. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm saying it because I know it needs to be said. Um, but I do, to wrap it up, I do genuinely like love the ending of this game. I know some people have been
Mhm.
contentious about it. Aside from the one kernel that I had, I'm thankful that that part happens in the beginning of the ending
So that it can
sequence.
just kind of
Yeah, so once I
play out.
got over that and we just got to like cutscene this, cutscene this, cutscene this, cutscene that, I kind of knew I was in for that. And so I was in a good place to sit there and watch it. And I did. And I like the way the story resolves. I'm excited to keep playing the second game because it's really good. I'm really liking it a lot so far. I love the final image of this game. I love the final mission that you do. I love the way that it goes to credits. So it wraps it up very nicely for
Th
me.
that's the one to kind of put a stamp on my thoughts is that I think my most overriding take from Death Stranding is that Hideo Kojima, regardless of whatever medium he's operating in, he is one of the best image constructors alive. Like there are so many things in this game that look so unfathomably fucking awesome. And it's not like, oh, it's like cool. It's just like it is shit that I would want like hung on my wall because it's just like it instills a kind of awe in you. And it's added to the fact that this game has a really incredible soundtrack by composer Ludwig Forssell, who does some great work here. I've actually been listening to the Death Stranding soundtrack because it went into my permanent writing rotation playlist when the game came out because I was just like, damn, this shit kind of bumps. Like the synth shit in this is great, and all
Yeah.
of the like horror stinger music is like legitimately fucking like pants shitting. It's awesome. It's as an aesthetic exercise, it's a fucking masterful turn. I
It's
really
also just got like a
fucking
great soundtrack, which contributes to the
yeah.
cinematic feel of it
And
all too.
fucking
Of like you'll get the little credit when a song starts. You'll hear like the first game you got churches, you got the fucking
churches.
neighbor, you got the neighborhood, you got Caroline Polachek in the second
I
game
I have
in
been
one of my
told
favorite sequences so far that I've
I have been
played.
told that in Death Stranding 2 the entire band Churches is just running an animal sanctuary.
I just did that mission.
That's so sick,
You
man.
save a kangaroo from a brush fire and take it back to the
Yes.
animal shelter, and it
That's
is
what I'm
all three members
fucking
of the band Churches.
that is
Playing characters, obviously, but just the fact that it's them is really funny and really cute.
I love that like Hideo Kojima's other secret skill in his back pocket is the fact that he's great at networking and that everybody
Having
loves
friends is a
working with
skill.
him. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, I'll put Guillermo del Toro in my fucking video game. What the fuck about it? Sure, man. Like, yeah, I'll get Mike Flanagan in here. I'll get Margaret Qualley. I'll get fucking Jordan Peele. I'll get like
George
just the
Miller is like a member
George
of the
Miller.
crew in the second game.
It's fucking it's aces. Like I had a really great experience with this that frankly like it's been a kind of stressful 2 weeks, and playing Death Stranding is an amazing way to a take your mind off of things and just decompress. It's just like, yeah, there are pockets of stress in it or anything, but I always like my games to have like a little bit of challenge, like a little bit of something. There's always got to be like I can't quite ever get on board with games that are like purely meditative experiences all of the time, just because I like a bit of friction. And Kojima, he always knows how much to put in. If I had to rate this, I'm fluttering back and forth, but I am going to tentatively give this the 4 stars. Because I haven't experienced the ending yet, and part of me just I want to know how he's gonna elaborate on these ideas in a sequel to begin with, just because I can't even fathom going further than he's gone. Like I want to know where we go after this, I guess.
We'll see. I'm keeping my info
And
about that as minimal as possible because I want to
and
experience it as it
well, you can
happens.
talk about it on here, like as you progress through it, like, update us as to what the fuck is going on in that shit in our opening segments and what the fuck have you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, let's get the numbers on the board. We got me. Oh, oh,
Oh,
ooh. We have
oh,
we have a tie. We are
oh
tied
shit.
again. We're tied at 20 points.
Ooh. So we have the potential. We got the potential to have a victor in this first round in the next episode.
It's punishment time!
So, Jake, I think we forgot a little bit of what the show was supposed to be about.
Oh, I have a very bad feeling about this already.
Because we've been pretty nice to each other these last couple of episodes.
We sure have.
But I think if I'm gonna get these 5 points and with the intentions of this show in mind,
Oh, I
I have
hate
to
you.
dig, I have to dig into the trenches, the recesses of Jake hate. I found it. I feel so good about this. This is going to be the worst 30 minutes of your fucking life because
Oh, I
I went back to one of the Jams and Tea worst lists and I noticed you singled out a particular artist that you had listened to an album that they had released that same year that was not the album that ended up making the list. So you are going to listen to the number one worst album of 2021, according to the Jams and Tea podcast, The Revenge of Hobo
you
Johnson.
son of a bitch.
I'm
God
doing
damn it. That fucking piece. Fucking God. Fuck. Oh, you
and we're
fucking.
gonna have an interesting conversation about that man and his music.
Fucking-
He has a new album out that I'm gonna listen to that I'm gonna talk about for the segment.
Yeah, you do that. You do
So I'll
that.
make it up to you. We'll both experience some new Hobo Johnson for this for
And
this
because we're
next
at the
episode.
fucking because we're at the very edge of it too, I have to pull out the stop for me, and because the way the show works, I have to be real nice to fuck.
You want to get those 5 points, don't you, motherfucker?
Fine. My fiance just gave me permission to be mean. Okay, all right. Okay. This is one of those weeks where I've had like a couple things ruminating in my head as to what to pick here, and I've had some that I definitely want to do relatively soon, but I had to shift my priorities here, and then I guess we'll just have to go full hog on music then, because well, I mean, as established, you and I both are uh Kentucky born and bred. We are some queer little punks is what we are and what we do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've been paying attention to the state of affairs of the entire world lately, but things be looking grim pretty much all around. So it's good to connect with your roots. It's good to, indulge in something that allows you to push back against the system a little bit. And I don't think there's a better example of this than a particular band that I'm very, very fond of. Band that I've only really gotten a limited sort of like I was we were going to cover. In fact, we did cover something they released last year, but that episode got lost or something. Something happened in the shuffle there. I don't really remember. But I was kind of sad because I really enjoyed it, and we never got to talk about it. But it's not just an album that I want to recommend to you. I want to recommend a discography.
Ooh.
But the thing is that I also know, again, I have still saddled you with a long recommendation. So this is discography that is quite short, both in the sense that it doesn't have a lot of albums and that those albums are pretty short, but they hit a nerve harder than any band I think I've ever experienced in my life. And because they are tied to our roots, I think you might share a kinship with them. And also because, I mean, shit, you're unfamiliar with metal, right? You know, we said that, we established that earlier on, is that we had to. I'm gonna have to course correct. I'm gonna have to give you some metal 101, and to do that, I am throwing you directly into the deep end because you're going to listen to the discography of Knocked Loose.
Fuck
And
yes.
And the reason I do this is because this is the equivalent of recommending. It's like, hey, kid, you just learned how to read. Great. Here's War and Peace. Have fun with that. The reason that I do this is because if you can even marginally get some shit out of Knocked Loose, heaviness in music and intense, like, you will not have a problem anywhere else ever.
Mm.
It is like once you temper yourself in these fires, you will do that. And I want to be very clear in that when I say their discography, I do also include, besides their studio records, which are just three, Laugh Tracks, A Different Shade of Blue, and You Won't Go Before You're Supposed to, but also the two EPs, their first EP, Pop Culture, and their last EP, A Tear in the Fabric of Life.
I've
This
heard
is
good shit about tearing the fabric of life.
Tear in the Fabric of Life, in my opinion at least, Tear in the Fabric of Life is one of the only two EPs I have ever given a 10 out of 10 to. I think it was the best metal release of this decade until they came out with You Won't Go Until You're Supposed to.
I'm not gonna
So
pull the full versus Wolves turncoat, but I actually have listened to that album. I like it quite a bit. So I'm excited to revisit it in the context of the rest of this band's discography. So this isn't a complete full discography introduction for me, but I'll be listening to more music for the first time than not for this. So
that's
I'm
all that
absolutely
matters.
down.
That is all that matters. And yeah, I mean, they're just a band that I love, and they're also a bunch of homegrown Kentucky boys who are real pissed off about a whole lot of shit. And for some reason, they're on Kimmel performing with Poppy to millions of people who shat their fucking pants, and that makes me giddy.
That makes me
Like,
giddy.
this is premier scare your parents metal.
Next time on Jen and Jake's Bizarre Affray, Jen attempts revenge and Jake attempts to knock them loose.
Finger guns.
Pew, 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 pew,
Pew,
pew.
pew, 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 pew. You son of a bitch. Playing music? No, I'm not playing music. I'm making stupid sound effects with my fucking face. Shut the fuck up, Zoom.